Hey, y'all, welcome to Indiana Jones. I'm the Jones, Dustin, and I'll always be your host, bringing the side of the screen of a fan. And this is where we talk both sides of the movies. And so each episode, I'll be trying to get us a guest that has worked on the other side of the screen. And today's guest is going to be David Watson. David Watson is a cinematographer, a director of photography. He's done a little bit of directing, and he's got some films that he's won awards for. He's got films that are on streaming. He's got one that's coming out and was in some film festivals. And so it's finally going to be out on streaming on April 14th. So he's pretty excited about that. And so David and I are just going to be talking about just the role of a cinematographer. So on my side, just like a lot of y'all who are fans, we don't notice a lot of cinematographers' names. We don't really, it's probably an unsung position outside of the film industry. A lot of us just don't know that. And that's no knock. It's a huge part of the process. And so we're going to get kind of his feedback today, kind of what that's like, what that role looks like. And we're just going to talk some fun about the short film that they're doing for a contest, the movie that's coming out, and things like that. And so welcome, David Watson. I appreciate you and welcome to the show.
Yeah, Dustin, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be on. I was going to say, I will take a slight caveat to your thought about the cinematographers being unsung heroes. I honestly think the sound guys are the unsung heroes.
Okay.
I do think some people know. I feel like the first thing I think people who get interested in film, I think some people will, especially the process. I think they like to who made it look this way?
Yeah.
Because so many movies we see, we love how they look. So I think people probably would, but the sound is it's 50% of the movie.
Yeah.
You can have a movie that looks beautiful and it sounds terrible and it'll take you out of it. But you can have a movie that doesn't always look great, but the sound is good and you kind of just just buy it and go along with it. So not that cinematographers are not important, but I do think sound guys especially, it's hard to find people in the indie world who want to do sound because it's not very glamorous and nobody, they're not clamoring for who's your DP. Who shot this?
Yeah.
People, in the indie world or filmmaking world, that's what, I feel like it's the cinematographer or it's the director, and then Roger Deakins or somebody like that always gets tied back to like, they shot this movie. And I mean, he's been knighted by the Queen for goodness sakes, but still, glad to be on here. I didn't mean to just jump right into it right off the bat.
Oh, no, I appreciate that.
I got nothing but love for the audio guys. So
no, it's a great shout out. Hopefully down the road, I'll, get some sound people on here. I've just through friendship in college. And then you and I met. So David and I, we got introduced through a mutual friend of ours, Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith will be on one of my episodes as well, as they did a movie together here in Missouri. And so Ryan and I are old Warhammer buddies and have a love for movies and had talked back and forth about podcasting. And he put me in touch with David. We had lunch, had a great conversation. And so started opening my eyes to the world of cinematography because I've been a fan. So if you guys watched the first episode, I have been a fan since a little boy. I'm 50. So I have a lot of experience and I have watched way too many movies, way too many TV shows. But one thing, so like you said, sound, I wouldn't be able to really tell you who, so that doesn't come to mind. Anybody. Yeah. You don't come, the names don't come to mind. But then same thing with cinematographers, you might see like somebody wins, like, I really like Hateful Eight. And so, it got nominated, but then the Revenant beat it that year. So I know little things like that. But for the most part, when I say unsung heroes, is you guys are a big part of the movie. What we see, you capture these scenes from different angles, from different lighting. It's very important what you all do. We just tend to not, your name doesn't tend to get to be the one that everybody thinks of. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on, just kind of explain.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So right off the bat, just kind of give me the role of a director of photography and cinematography, what that looks like when you come on. Do you come on to a project at the very beginning and you're part of the whole process? Or in your experience, has like storyboarding already been done and then they go, oh, let's get him in and his eye? Like kind of how does that go with your experience?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I will say in my experience, and I think this is probably true on big Hollywood sets, I think that other than the relationship between an actor and a director, I think maybe the first AD, but probably the closest collaboration on a film set is going to be between the director and his DP, his cinematographer. Okay. I mean, that's the way the movie's this is the guy that's bringing his vision to life. Like yes, there's actors on the screen, but who's going to record those actors and who's going to make them look how
Yeah,
they're going to look? You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'll be costuming and there's set design and all that stuff too, but
sure.
who's actually capturing all of those things? And so, on my experience, it's there's that relationship is super. I spend more time with the director than I do anybody else. It's pre-production, post-production, all that kind of stuff. So, and to answer your question, as far as coming on to a project, yeah, there's the stuff I've done. Typically it's somebody that I've worked with before, and you know, there's a relationship there anyways, and say they, hey,
Yeah.
I have this script. Do you want to read the script? Then it's like, do you want to start? You know, then it's like then you kind of start. It's not even a. It's just a natural thing, a dialogue about what it's going to look like here. It like this movie. There's obviously tons of inspiration from other movies that we like, or even maybe a specific scene that you like that you kind of want to replicate. Like we did Happy Halloween, and
Yeah.
Brittany wanted all these colors, all this, you know, she wanted it to be very colorful. So that was a big point that we did. And like that movie, for example, I had read the script, she had storyboarded it, and then she brought her storyboard. She had like 2 or 3 notebooks. So she had hand drawn them.
Okay.
She brought them to my house, and over like a 6 month period, about once, maybe twice a week, she'd bring them to my house, and we'd sit and we would shot list
Okay.
based on her script, based on the script and her storyboard. And so we figured out a lot of things that maybe didn't work, or a different way to do it, or I had suggestions. Really, the cinematographer, I mean, anybody on the set, it's like, it's that thing about like, you know, I used to love the show West Wing, and they used to always say that to serve at the pleasure of the president. And that's what we serve at the pleasure of the director. Like we're there to
Okay.
help them get it's not about ego. It's not about, well, I want it to look this way, or I think this. You're just asking them what they want. You're having discussions, and
Yeah.
most directors are open to your thoughts, and you're sort of, and anybody who's wanting me to shoot their movie, they kind of know what the stuff I shoot looks like. And so it's almost like just do what you do.
Yeah.
And I want my movie to look that way, or whatever. And so but our job really on set is to light and to, you know, figure out the camera angles. A lot of times figuring out camera angles is going to be more so decided by the director a lot of times.
Oh, okay.
Because they want to know, again, it's their vision. They want to, I have an app on my phone. I think I may have talked about, it's called Cad Rage, but
Okay.
it's like a little, you can put your lenses in there, whatever lenses you're using. And I can just hand it to the director and say, okay, it may say medium on the shot list, but how medium is that? It's always kind of, you know, it could
Yeah.
be different, or you may get in that spot, and he or she may be like, I want it this tight. Okay, well, that's the
Yeah.
close up, but it's and then there's always suggestions. Let's do this. Let's do that. What about this? Or this might be easier. Sometimes it's as simple as just like, let's shoot these two first, and then let's go back to this one because the lighting won't change. It's stuff like that the director may not be thinking about, but I'm thinking, if we shoot this shot and then that shot, I have to shift the whole world. I have to shift all the lighting. So let's
Yeah.
shoot these two coverages first, and then so just it's stuff like that too. And on a big set, you'll have like a gaffer and a grips and best boys, and you'll have. But on the stuff I do, the indie stuff, it's usually me and maybe one other person, and we're just like,
Yeah.
we're hanging all the lights, we're moving all the C stands and flags and whatever else, and wrangling stingers, which is set talk for an extension cord. So we're, you know,
Okay.
there's all that kind of stuff that goes into it, and then it's like hit record.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
you're setting exposure, and you figure out, do you need ND filters or not, or you know, da
Okay.
da 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 da. So all that kind of stuff, and so but generally it's like I have a pretty good idea once I get to set each day what we're shooting. Really,
Okay.
it's okay. What shot do you want to start with? Okay, I kind of like it from here. And then I'll make suggestions. Hey, it's going to be really hard to get lights in there. Or if we do it from right here, you get the same basic angle. So
Yeah.
it's stuff like that. Sometimes it's less about the art than about practicality and where I can
Sure.
get stuff to fit. Anyways, it's a lot that goes into just more than, I joke that we just hit record, but there's a lot more to
Yeah,
it than
no, I
that.
know. And when we had lunch, we were talking. I think there was a scene you said I had asked you about, like budget and things like that, and that plays a
Hmm.
big part in it. You were talking about, I think it was Eldritch USA. You were saying it just seemed like a better shot to be inside the trunk looking out. If you
Yeah.
And so I remember that, and I
Yep.
never thought about that, like, when it comes to budget and lighting and when it comes to where the actual scene is, sometimes you just gotta do, "Hey, listen, this is just gonna be the best
Yep.
shot,"
Yep.
and it could turn into probably a great shot. I'm sure there's something. Is there anything
Yeah.
in your mind where you're like, "Hey, I was doing this movie and this particular thing where, like, oh, we've got it, we weren't really prepared for how the lighting was gonna be," or I
Yeah.
think you were telling me one time there was this other place and the lighting was a little off, and so is there sometimes where you and the director gotta be like, "Oh, man, we gotta kinda change it up at the last second, but then it turned out to be like, wow, this just turned out way better than either expected. Do you have anything like that, or is it just kind of more?
Uh, I mean, there's probably some. It's hard. I have to sit for a second, but I can
Yeah.
promise you, every. I always say that filmmaking is problem solving because you may walk through a set, like through a location, and sometimes you don't get to see the location till the day of,
Okay.
till you're so sometimes you get to see it beforehand, sometimes you don't, and so you may walk onto it and you may walk through it the day before and be like, you're thinking this and this, but then when you get in there and you really sit down and you get actors in there and you get gear in there and you get set deck in there, you're like, so that idea we had doesn't work. Let's
Yeah.
yeah, so there's definitely a ton of that kind of stuff. Like the one you were talking about from Eldritch, it was supposed to be like a three shot. There's three guys in the shot, three shot, and then like over the shoulders as they talk to each other. But it was actually me and our first AD at the time, Tyler Foreman. We were like, because we knew we had a trunk shot. There was a shot from the trunk. I was like, why don't we just leave the trunk open and just have it? It's just have them do the whole thing right there,
Yeah.
and it worked great. And it's a comedy, and so it's kind of comical that
Yeah.
these guys are the whole time are kind of they're supposed to be looking at a dead body that's covered in like ice from a gas station,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
that they
Okay.
bags of ice. So it's really comical, and
Yeah.
that they're just sitting there hovering over this thing. But
So
so it's definitely. I mean, there's a few shots that don't require some extra form of like, okay, how do we want to do this? So and it's one of the things. It's so funny because you think there would just be 1,000, but because it's so common,
yeah.
I don't know. We did have a shot. There was a project I shot last year where we were supposed to it was supposed to be a static shot, and they were dragging these guys. We were shooting in this old jail, this old prison. It was a project for a documentary, and we were reenacting this thing. It was from the
Okay.
1940s. We shot in this old prison. Anyways, it's in my reel. Actually, there's a shot of them. These guys are dragging these two old, like, and they're in this prison cell. It's a really quick shot, but we were supposed to just shoot it static, and they were just going to drag him to the cell, and we just kind of pan over to the cell. And I was like, I had my gimbal. I'm like, why don't we just get behind them kind of low? You get to, because it's all this texture in this place and the lights. And I was like, let's just follow behind them
Yeah.
and gimbal it. And he's like, the director's like, okay, cool. And I kind of showed him. I did a real quick, like, just pan back, just did it myself with nobody in the shot and just hit record and showed him. He's like, okay, that's cool. It's like, because again, there was this old prison. The paint was it was just a cool, like, textury. And
Sure.
I'm so glad we did it that way, because it would have been so boring just watching them drag this guy in. It made it much more visceral because this guy's fighting with them and all
Okay.
this kind of stuff. And so it just helped tell the story better, I think, than just a static shots.
So it sounds like, from your experience, so once you guys get there the day of, and I have another question about shot listing, but I want to kind of
Sure.
just kind of comment on what you just said. But it sounds like you and the director, the cinematographer, do, in your experience, the director's going to listen to you when it comes to, hey, I know this is your vision, buddy, but like, you were saying, I think if we do this. And so do you feel like you're one of the roles on a movie set that can kind of talk to the director and say, I think we might want to do it this way, versus an actor, it could kind of probably be like an unwritten rule. The actor probably shouldn't always be telling the director, right? Like, because you hear stories about actors getting blacklisted, or they're hard to
Mm,
work with on set because they have the eyes of a director. But with
yeah.
you, I would say a cinematographer probably has a lot more flexibility because you're the extension of their eyes. Like, they know what
Right.
they want, but you're the one capturing. Is that correct then? That
That's
you
a
get to
great, yeah, yeah, totally, absolutely. That's a great way to put an extension of their eyes. Like there's, I think I'm a big Roger Deakins fan as a director of photography, but
Mhm.
again, with that relationship with you and the director, there's so much trust there, and there's so much like, and sometimes it comes down to, again, I can't fit a light in here. It's going to look bad if we do it this way.
Yeah.
But if we move 3 feet this direction, then I can hide a light. So sometimes it's simple as that. And the director's like, yeah, cool, go for it. And sometimes I'll have thoughts, just like the shot of, let's do it. Let's shoot it on a gimbal instead of on sticks. That's one of those times where it's like the director that's trusting you, right?
Yeah.
That's like, they're just, they, and I do have, I mean, I've been the director of photography on 5 feature films and a bunch, tons of other short films. So they kind of trust me too. I mean, that's part of it is, but again, I'm there. I say this, I don't want to be a director. I don't want to direct. I'm there
Yeah.
to help somebody else reach their vision. I need somebody to give me some direction. I
Sure.
want a vision that I'm trying to achieve instead of necessarily being the guy who comes up with the bit. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to write it. I don't want to,
Yeah.
when I read a script, I'll start to see it in my head a
Okay.
certain way, but I very much am there to just help them achieve what's on the paper. So, and there are some, and now as far as actors, there's definitely most directors are open to an actor. You do a take or two, and their actor's like, it just feels that one line feels weird
Yeah.
out of my mouth. It just doesn't work. And they're like, what if I did it like this? And a lot of times directors are like, yeah, cool. Let's do one more like the way it's written, and then let's do a couple the other way. And then we'll do two. And then it's like, so a lot of times directors will be like, oh yeah, I get it. Or sometimes directors are like, once you hear the words that are on the paper, you're like, that doesn't sound good at
Okay.
all. And
Yeah.
like we'll do little read-throughs sometimes, and sometimes simply just having somebody read that dialogue out loud,
Yeah.
you realize it sounds weird. We need to change it, or you know what I mean? So
Sure.
again, it's problem solving. Things that what's on the screen sometimes is very different than what was on the paper. So
Okay.
when you start, so anyways.
So you'd mentioned I know Brittany, we're going to talk a little bit about Happy Halloween. And she, if I believe correctly, she was the writer. She's one of the stars in it. And she's a friend of yours that you guys have. Is it the Wannabe
The
Directors, a
wannabe
podcast, Wannabe
the wannabe
Filmmakers?
filmmakers.
Wannabe
Yeah, yeah.
Filmmakers. So they do have a podcast called the Wannabe Filmmakers. And then if you look up David on his IMDb, once again, it's David Watson. He's got a really cool demo reel. He sent it to me a while ago. I watched it. I watched it again a little bit earlier today as I was prepping, and it's really awesome. About 6 minutes. So it just shows you different angles that he has shots from, things that he's proud of, and it's a way for other directors to kind of see this is the kind of way he does it. And so, like that scene he was explaining, it's in his demo reel. So check that out on IMDb. There are a lot of David Watson. So David M. Watson. So with Brittany, so the question I had about shot listing, I've heard that term a few times. So
Mhm.
shot listing, is that kind of you and the director's type of storyboarding? So like storyboarding will be sometimes like you're gonna pitch to like an executive, or you're gonna want somebody to kind of fund you. So you might do a storyboard and say, as you're writing, you do a storyboard, but then you might do a storyboard to say, hey, this is what it's gonna look like, invest in us. But when you're doing shot listing, what exactly is that? Because it sounds like you did a lot of that for this particular film and a lot ahead
Yep.
of time. So what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know if I've ever had a project where we didn't shot list. And storyboards are good. Not everybody's storyboards. I
Okay.
appreciate storyboards as far as like some people just don't. Actually saw a clip yesterday of Steven Spielberg talking about how he only storyboards really complex VFX shots
Oh,
where
okay.
everything has to be we're getting this shot and then this shot and then this shot. So, and it's going to look this way. Here's the angle, it's all that. So, but some directors storyboard. Brittany's a storyboarder. I've worked with. I don't think Ryan did much storyboarding. I don't think my buddy Thomas didn't. But storyboarding is just It's almost like you're just. It can be pencil drawings. It can be very
Yeah.
elaborate, but it's just a way to sort of. You may have a shot in your head it's hard to explain, and sometimes you just drawing it out simply makes it easier to see. And I think it helps. I think it helps a director visualize the story. Like it sort of
Mhm.
forces you to watch it in your head. And for me, that's what shot listing does is it makes you watch the movies. Shot listing is simply just, we're going to have a scene of dialogue in a kitchen, at a kitchen table, two people sitting either end of the table, and they're having a conversation. So what shots do we need? We need a wide shot, and then we need over the shoulders where they're over their shoulder looking back, and then the other, we call it the reverse. And then you might have what's called a single, which is it's a tighter shot where we don't see the other person's shoulder. And when you
Okay.
see somebody in a shot like an over the shoulder where you can see that the person's side of their head or their hair or whatever, that we call that they're dirty in the frame is what we call it.
Okay.
Let's have
That's a
them dirty
dirty
in the
shot.
frame.
Okay.
Dirty shot. Yep. And so then you may have a single, which there's nobody in it except for the person that's talking. And it's usually a tighter shot. Those
Okay.
are called singles. And so really that's all shot listing is taking each scene and then saying, okay, we definitely need this shot, this shot, this shot. Sometimes you might need an insert. There's a gun on the table and you want to see a shot of them picking the gun up. That's an insert shot.
Okay.
And so, I mean, it could be an insert of a picture on the, you know what I mean? It could be,
Okay.
there's a really famous clip if you ever get bored, and David Fincher does a lot of takes. There's a really famous clip of him on the set of Zodiac, and there's a scene in Zodiac. There's a shot. It's literally like, I don't even think it's 2 seconds.
Oh, really?
And it's when Jake Gyllenhaal is in his car and he's in like traffic and he's sketching really quick, and he tosses what he's sketching on into the seat next to him. And there's an insert shot of that. And there's a
Okay.
funny video of him tossing it the car is still because the shot is inside the car, so you can't tell if it's moving or not. But
Yeah.
there's literally Jake Gyllenhaal looks at the camera. There's a BTS person. He's like, "This is take 26," just because Fincher wants it to land just the right way. So
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
yes, it's craziness.
That's
And
funny.
now I've been there. Insert shots are such a funny thing because you think, well, we'll just get a quick insert of this. And then you realize, well, you need them to pull it up into focus, like they're picking it off the table, and you need to pull
Yeah.
them up like they're doing this up into, so there's a whole like insert shots. It's jokingly on sets. They always take longer than you think they should because they
Really?
should be really
Okay.
simple. But anyways, but shot listing is just literally figuring out what shots, what coverage. Coverage is just a close up, a wide shot, two shot, wide, over the shoulders. What shots you're going to need for each scene, and then it's just literally an Excel spreadsheet. You just break it up into scenes, and you have the shots. Sometimes you'll have notes
Okay.
next to it to remind you of something or remind you of a prop that you need or something like that, and then that's kind of your Bible every day is those, you may add shots and you may get down there and just like the thing from Eldritch, we may end up removing the wide shot and the two shots. We just did the trunk shot.
Okay.
And so you may end up knocking stuff off or you may end up adding it. Sometimes on the ones I have, there's a column there. Some directors that I've worked with, they want to note on that shot list, somebody to make a note of which take was their favorite. Take 3 was the best just for editing. So it's like, that's the first one they can go to. So there's little stuff like that, but that's really just what it is. It's just to keep everybody on task and to make sure that you're not forgetting a shot that you need. And I can't not have a shot list. I need to know what's next. And it's also one of those things too, where it's 12 hours in, you're like, okay, we only got 2 shots left, guys, 2 shots.
Yeah. Okay.
It's almost like, look how many of these shots we've done. We've only got
Okay.
2. So some of it's like that too. It's almost like you're checking it off and you're like, this is what we've done today. And so that's a kind of a side effect of them, I guess. But really for me and for most of the sets I'm on, it's to keep you on task. And here we're going to do this, and then we're going to take lunch, and then we're going to do the rest of this. Or this scene is at this location, and this scene is same location, but it's later in the day. So we're going to shoot the daytime stuff, whatever it might be. And you
Yeah.
organize it. So even your shot list doesn't necessarily go in the order that you shoot it. You may jump around
Okay.
even from what's on the shot list. So yeah.
No, that's cool. So I know I've put you in touch, and you and Jeff have done a one of his podcasts together.
Yeah.
And Jeff was saying in one of my other episodes, he had said that sometimes like you only get so many takes. I know, I think it was when I was on his, I was
Mm-hmm.
asking a question. So you only get so many takes. So when you guys do your shot listing and your budget, so
Mm-hmm.
if you have to do the same scene, but it's a wide, it's a close up, maybe a dirty, is it like the actors only get like one wide take? Because if you only get 1 or 2 takes, but it's going to be 5 different types of shots, you're talking now that's actually turning into
Yeah.
upwards of 10 to 15 takes just
Sure.
because of the angles. And so is that a big part of your day? So you're like, you got to plan
It's
all that out.
You have to. So that it's and I watched that podcast that you did with Jeff, and it was super interesting because he did a lot of the stuff I do is low budget
Yeah.
to no, but like we're talking
Okay. Yeah.
micro budget. So he has a lot more constraints on him because he's got producers that are not that we have producers, but we don't have a lot of people that we're necessarily answering to. We're doing a lot of this is just stuff we're doing on our own because we want to go out and make it, and we make it work. I mean,
Yeah.
I've made films that had small, we're talking about $30,000 budgets, which is nothing. That's what they spend on food on a big budget movie every
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a tiny little. That's probably I think 80,000 was the biggest budget I ever worked on,
Okay.
and so it was. So a lot of this, we don't have a lot of the constraints that Jeff does, and that I can't honestly. That's got to be crazy to work in a situation where you're only going to get like 2 shots, 2 takes, maybe sometimes maybe 1,
Yeah.
because you have to be done at this time. Because if you're not done at this time of the day, then you go into overtime, and then you got to start paying people time and a half, and or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
their agreed to rate is into overtime. And so I understand but the world that I come from, which is even more like indie, I think even than what he does is,
Yeah.
I mean, I know it is because it's like we're doing all this stuff for free. And it's you kind of understand the wide shot a lot of times we do first simply because it's usually the hardest to light because it's when you
Yeah.
start moving into close-ups, you can get a lot more intricate with the lighting and make it look a lot better. But in a wide shot, it's a little bit harder. You're trying to take brighter lights and light, it's further away. Anyways, the whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So wides are the hardest to light. But the wide is also a place you're typically not going to, we always talk about, we're only going to see this for like 4 seconds. We're only going to see it at the
sure.
beginning and maybe at the end of the scene. The rest of the time, you're going to be into that coverage, the over the shoulders. And so a wide shot a lot of times is, especially if it's dialogue heavy, it's almost like a rehearsal for the actors. You're rolling on it,
Mhm.
but you're kind of figuring out the pace. Sometimes you're like we talked about earlier, maybe there's a line of dialogue that doesn't sound right, or it doesn't fit, or feels weird. And so you kind of, and sometimes it's a blocking. It's like they're moving around inside the scene and you're kind of figuring that out. And then when you jump into the coverages, to the close-ups, you may have done 6 takes of the wide shot, but you're only going to do 2, maybe 3 of the other coverages because they've got it. The actors are in it. They're like, their blood's flowing, the dialogue is all figured out, any kind of flubs or whatever, we're in a rhythm. And then
Mhm.
and the actors know when the close-ups, that's where the performances are going to be. And so, but we do have the luxury of we've been up against it where it's like, okay, we only got like 1 take to do this, or 2 more takes left to do this or whatever. And I've done stuff where it's been like VFX or practical effects where we only got 2 takes to do. There's a shot in Happy Halloween where somebody gets their throat cut, and that was like, we had tube running up this guy's hand, and we had to pump the blood, but we only had 2 shirts for him. He was a sheriff, but we only had 2 sheriff shirts. So we only got 2 takes of him,
Oh,
but we
okay.
rehearsed it.
Yeah.
We rehearsed it a bunch,
Okay.
and we rolled on the rehearsals, and everything except for the blood coming out from, he was like this. And of course the blood's pumping out from his hand, and it looks like it's spewing all over him, and it
Okay.
looks
Well,
really
thanks for
cool. And
ruining that for me.
sorry, sorry,
I was
sorry.
gonna
Well,
watch it on April 14th, and
you don't
now
know when it's going to happen. Hey,
okay,
that's
yeah, that's
okay. I
true.
didn't
That's true.
spoil
No, I'm
any.
just playing.
I
I'm
didn't
just playing.
spoil any who the
No, I'm just
killer
playing.
is or
Sheriff
anything.
always dies in slasher
They
films,
do.
so
It's like
yeah,
yes,
that dude
yes.
wasn't lasting. So
No, he
okay, no
wasn't.
biggie. So
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
so
So
with
yeah.
so I want to transition because I know we're pretty excited. When we first had lunch, you had told me about this cool thing I'd never heard of. So I've watched tons of movies. I know who Kevin Smith is. I like a lot of his
Mm,
stuff, but you told me about this thing called the Smod Castle Festival. And if I have
mm-hmm.
it correct, I did look it up. So I guess Kevin Smith actually has a cinema in New Jersey called the Smod Castle, and that was
He does.
his hometown. That's where he grew up. And so he took over that. And so he does this film festival. And so kind of set up for everybody. Just from your words. So I know if I have this correct, it's like you guys got 48 hours. He gives you guys like basically he says, make me a short film. He gives you like a prop, some phrases or something like that. So kind of walk
Mm-hmm.
me through that because you just did that. And so everybody knows that's going to be later in April in New Jersey. I'm not saying everybody travel there, but Kevin Smith, they picked 37 short films throughout the world. And your film that you guys just did a couple, like 2 months ago, I think it was on my birthday weekend. Actually, I couldn't come out. You had invited, you said I could come out and
Yeah,
watch. I
yeah.
wasn't able to, and I appreciate the invite. But you guys filmed that in just one weekend, and you guys
Mm-hmm.
got selected. And so you're one of the 37 films. So talk me through just how fun that is and how hard it is to put that together, because I think you guys don't get any of the information till like on Friday. And then you basically have until Sunday night to send it in,
Right.
correct? So
Yeah.
what's something like that when it comes to short form world? Because you have a lot of experience. You guys love to do that. And you have a good friend base that you guys have filmed. I've seen some of the same people in the different movies. So it
Yep.
may be a little bit easier in that regards, but kind of walk us through short films and just through this fun process with the Smod Castle thing.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate you asking because it is a cool thing that people do, and it really is. It's a challenge. And so there's another one that we do. We actually are doing it. We're doing another one at the end of April. It's called SATO. It stands for
Yeah,
Springfield in the Ozarks. Yeah.
yeah,
So
you're talking
that
about
one
that.
that one is a true 48-hour one where they call it the inspiration package, but it's the same kind of thing. We get information on a Friday night, and then you have till Sunday. Well, if they give it to us at 6 p.m. on Friday, you have till 6 p.m. on Sunday. Now, the one we did for the Smod Castle is a 37-hour chip festival. They send out an email to all the teams at like 9 a.m. on Saturday.
Oh,
So
okay.
so now Sato's a little bit easier because you have overnight. You have basically, till whenever that Friday, usually Friday nights when we're figuring out the story and then writing it, getting it into some sort of script form.
Okay.
And then that way the actors can see they can start to memorize their lines and stuff like that. So, but Smod Castle's even tougher because you only have 37 hours. So we get it at 9 a.m. We didn't even start shooting until 2:30 in the afternoon on Saturday. and then we have to turn it in. I think we got until like 10 p.m. on Sunday is when we actually had to turn it in, which is
Okay.
nice, which was a few extra hours than we get with Sato, but it's as far as the last day. But so we shot, I think we shot about 10 hours, shot about until about 2 a.m. And
Okay.
then we all like, basically everybody left, I drove back to my house, which is like an hour away, and then came back the next morning, and we edited and did color and sound design and music and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't the editor of this one. I've edited the last 3 or 4 Sato ones. I actually edited one of our other Smodcastles, but this guy, so I was doing color. We had an editor, Brian was doing our editing, and then Sam Baker he was there with his piano and guitar, and he was writing music.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
yeah, like while he's editing, and so he didn't score it. He would basically give him themes, and
Okay.
then let him with stems, and stems are just, it's just a track for each instrument that he uses. So if he uses a piano and a guitar and a whatever, drums, synth or whatever, he can
Yeah.
send that to him with the stem. So if you want the piano to come in before you can edit it
Oh,
and
okay.
manipulate it that way. So for the editor to kind of help to mess with, and then again, I just did the color on it this year, and I helped a little bit with some of the sound, the Foley stuff, but yeah, we got, I think it was a line of dialogue, and then we had to have a boom box. I'm doing it like this because every boom box is I've ever
Yeah,
seen is
no,
on
I'm
somebody's
I'm old
shoulder.
school. LL
Yeah, me
Cool J,
too.
I'm bad when
Yeah,
walking with
yeah,
a
dude.
boombox back in the
Yeah,
80s.
no, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so then it's, other than there being, there was a line of dialogue. There was an inspiration. They wanted it to be like Amy from Chasing Amy. Like they wanted a character, not the story, but a character to be similar to Amy. So she's very confident, very like, you
Okay.
know, uh, so we had a character like that, and then we had, or at least we tried to. I think we did, but and then we had the line of dialogue, and then we had the boombox, and all those things. That's it. Everything else you do with those, what you do, when you show them,
Okay.
how you show them, is all up to you. And so that's where you are kind of constrained, but you still. We had a decent idea. We had a location,
Yeah.
and so we had actors, and so you kind of work with what you have.
Sure.
We're not gonna have a location. We shot in a house that was a really big house that had a lot of interesting.
Oh,
If you
that was
saw
all
it,
one house?
that was
You
all one
shipped me the
house.
film, so I got to see the film,
It,
everybody. It's pretty cool. It's kinda like, can I give a little I'm not gonna give much away, but
that's
it's
okay.
gonna
You're
be
good.
at it's called Killers. When you sent
Hmm.
it to me, it was a different line, and
It
it
was.
was the line you guys needed. So there's a line
Yep.
that they needed that's in it, and, it kinda
Yep.
felt like, Scream meets Inception. So it was a really cool little,
It was.
short film. And so that
Uh,
was all so, like, because it looked like you guys were, like, at a bar. So that was, like, somebody's basement with a
that was
bar then?
downstairs.
So that was the same house. Okay.
The scene with them watching with the kids on the couch. You know that
Okay.
scene I'm talking about.
Yep.
Behind them is the bar that we shot. You can't really see
Oh, so
it.
the way you angled it, you couldn't
Yep.
even tell it was the same room. So there
No.
you go. That's what a
Yep.
great cinematographer does, everybody. You didn't
I
I
don't
did
take
not even know it was the same room
It
that
was, and
the
I don't want to
different
take all
scenes
the
were in.
credit
Oh,
for. Yeah, I don't want to take all the credit for that, but that was one thing. As a cinematographer, as we knew we were going to have to split it in half, and
sure.
so when I'm setting up shots, obviously I'm very very mindful to not show anything too distinctive. And I'm shooting. It's a really long room. It was
Yeah.
actually the basement of this house, really long room, and so keep a shallow depth of field, which is kind of like what I've got behind me, where everything's blurry, so you can kind of you don't really notice what's back there, so
Oh, yeah,
that's
because that
helpful.
scene's
But
just them on the couch, so you're not
that's it.
really paying yeah, and it's kinda
Nah.
they're watching them. I think so, yeah, it is kinda dark out there, so but that was really good because I really thought you guys probably just got, like, a
No.
little maybe, like, downtown Springfield or something, maybe just went to a little
No.
podunk bar or something for
Nope.
that scene, so
These
no,
guys had
okay.
a bar in their basement,
Okay.
and then upstairs is the scene. The kitchen scene is upstairs, and then the
Okay.
scene where Ghostface sits on the couch. And where she's watching TV. That's all like in their like living room, which is just off. Just you can see the kitchen from there, but the way again, it's editing. It's what's in the frame, and you make it look like I guess I mean, it looked like at least two different locations, and
Yeah.
the room where we shot the beginning of it is the black and white. The like that was in like another like guest room basically that was down the hall from the living room. So, and those walls were red, as a matter of fact. We shot it black.
Okay.
I colored it black and white, but
Oh, okay.
it was their walls, and they were actually like deep maroon red.
Oh, and then
So
in editing, you can just make it look like it's a whole different paint job then.
right, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I just
okay,
made it black and white, but we
okay.
did. There was a couple little VFX things when we're over her shoulder where she's dirty, and we see the TV.
Yeah.
We had to like, because we're literally recording the TV. And
Yeah.
so I had to go in and mask out the TV and change the color because it was kind of blue, just the way the camera interprets the TV.
Oh,
So I had
okay.
to go in and mask it out and basically desaturate it to make it look like it was black and white.
So now we're getting that
So
nerd talk,
nerd
everybody. We're
talk,
getting
yeah.
all that cinematography
Yeah,
talk here. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, so that's all those things that like you would never know we had done. And so even in a 37-hour festival, it's and then they can only be 4.5 minutes. So that's obviously, you know, I mean, it's helpful that it doesn't have to be 10 minutes. But I mean, Sato's, they can't be more than 5 minutes.
So you get up to 5 minutes for Sato,
And
and
four and a
then
half
you
for
won't know until that Friday what. Now, will they do the same thing that Smodcastle does where they'll just give you a phrase, or will they on Friday send you a package that says, this is your, does everybody get like the same set, or where they
Same.
send, okay, so you guys get all the same thing? Because I was curious, because I was looking at some of the names, because you gave me a different name and we talked about it before we started the episode. So I was looking at the 37. So if you go to the Smodcastle Cinemas and you look at their film festival, you can buy tickets, and it has this, an order and a breakdown. Well, the original name you gave me wasn't on there. So I was like, hey, did they change it? And we figured it out. So it's called Killers. So it's now Killers is your guys's. So when that shows, but I thought it was interesting. I thought maybe some team, I'm kind of glad you told me that Amy was a theme, because I thought maybe somebody was just trying to play to Kevin Smith's ego, because one of the names I thought one name was really funny. It was, instead of chasing Amy, it was catfishing Amy. So I thought that was pretty clever. So I was like, man, I wonder if that's just to kind of, to Kate, but now it's nice that they had to use her type of character, so that makes more sense. But it's a funny title. Catfish and Amy's kind of pretty funny.
It is. Well, this is the third year I've done it, and we've got picked every year. We've never won. I wish we'd win, but this is the third year I've done it. We've got picked each time, which is super great.
Yeah,
but
no, that's awesome.
But everybody, it's inevitable. Like this year, we're like, we're not going to put a bunch of Kevin Smith movie reference. And you always, like the first two we did, the last 2 years, we literally had Jay and Silent Bob, like not as characters, but there's a shot where we're following somebody into a movie theater, and they're standing outside the door, and they say something to her, but it's just a very quick, like they're in the shot.
Yeah,
kind of exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
But but this year, of course, ours has Ghostface in it, and if you are a fan of Kevin's, like Jay and Silent Bob are actually in Scream 4, and so that was like our little, because the seventh Scream had just come out, so it just kind of gave me that the same weekend of it.
So it came out the weekend before, because I wanted to go see that. That's right. So that's kind of funny. You kind of used like a something that was fresh in everybody's mind. So you guys got selected. So just for everybody watching, short stories, if any of you have never checked out, kind of give you an idea from my perspective, I guess. So when people do short stories, the cool thing is are you familiar with Cargo?
I guess so.
So Cargo, so for those watching, there is this really cool movie on Netflix. It was from 2017 with Martin Freeman. It's called Cargo, and it's a zombie movie, but it's a different take on the genre. It's about a dad who has to keep his baby alive.
Oh, I do remember seeing a trailer. Okay,
but here's the thing. So for those of you who are curious about short films and what it means to people like you who make these, Blonda Ramke in 2013 made a viral video called Cargo, and it's a short story. And it was so huge on YouTube that they basically 4 years later, it's a massive movie. And if you can go back and look at Cargo, the short film, it's probably the greatest short film I've ever seen.
That's
truly,
cool.
it's
really?
so cool.
I'll have to check it out. I've never heard of it.
And it turned into a movie because the premise of it. Now, I'm somebody who loves a lot of zombie stuff. My dog's named Governor, and I got another dog named Herschel. So huge Walking Dead fan. So, I even had a dog named Negan. So huge fan.
That's awesome.
So and if we get a female, Michonne's probably going to be our next dog. So we're big Walking Dead. I've even read the comic books, Cinema's Presence. I've even read, Robert Kirkman actually wrote a book about the beginning of Governor's character. So I even read that book.
Wow.
Big nerd with zombie stuff. So we'll probably get into that a little bit when we talk some Mount Rushmore of horror. So short films can be really huge for you guys and for other people who are in indie film. And so I really hope that has success. And so we're going to transition a little from that short film to something that you have worked on last year. It's coming out here in a couple weeks. It's called Happy Halloween. How excited are you that it's finally going to be out on streaming? And you've already told us this Brittany was at your house all the time with all these shot lists over and over and over again. So we already know so what was kind of like that for you and your group? Because a lot of them from that movie were some of them were in Eldritch. I've noticed some of them were from
Yep.
Eldritch USA, which you were
Hmm.
on cinematography with Ryan,
Yep.
but some of them were in your short film that I watched. I noticed
They
some of them were
were.
in that short film. So you have a crew that you like working with. So tell me how that was for the group of you and how excited you are for it to be released here in a couple weeks. And then
Yeah,
where
for sure.
exactly is it? Amazon? Is it Tubi?
Right.
Is it Shutter? Like where exactly is this coming and being released? Do you know?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I do know it'll be pretty much any streaming service, Amazon, like iTunes, Apple TV. It'll be on all those kinds of things.
Okay.
Tubi, yeah, all those. It's not. I mean, Brittany told me the other day somebody she works with was like, "Oh, so I can watch on Netflix." It's like, no, it's not going to be on Netflix. It's
No,
not a.
no.
It's not that. But most places that you go to buy movies, you can typically find that movie on
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Like you can
I don't
rent
know
it
if
or something like that.
right, exactly. And they'll have Blu-rays and DVDs at some point. They're coming down the pike. They just haven't done them yet. But and really quickly before I forget, you were talking about short films being another great one is Lights Out. If anybody's ever seen those movies, that's a
Oh,
great
okay.
example of like that was a short, a 2.5 minute short film. It got like a ton of traction online, and then they ended up making a feature. But the thing about short films too, anybody out there who is an aspiring filmmaker or is into filmmaking, short films are the greatest place to go and practice.
Okay.
It's a place to give you an actual thing to shoot. You're not just sort of walking around as a cinematographer walking around shooting flowers in the sunset, but it gives you an actual thing to do with
Okay.
actual purpose. And they're usually, you can do them in a couple of days. The thing with short films, they don't always have to make sense. They can be much
Yeah,
more
artsy
ambiguous,
and yeah, yeah.
artsy, yeah, that kind of stuff. But it gives actors a chance to do different things, directors a chance. It gives writers. I mean, it's like a place to practice your craft, and you don't have to worry about it. Some kind of crazy deadline. Or, I mean, if you're not doing a film, a 37-hour, 24
Yeah,
hour
yeah, of
thing,
course, something
but
like that.
anyways, yeah. So yeah, short films are really great. They're really nice. So, but as far as Happy Halloween, yeah, man, gosh, I feel like I can take that hard drive and just unplug it from my computer now, like
Okay.
because it's been like I think we shot it in 2023,
Okay.
and so it's taken this long. It was about almost a year of editing to get it ready. We had a premiere. There was a gentleman that we knew that worked at the Alamo
Yeah.
there in Springfield, Missouri, and we got to have a premiere there. They showed it at the Alamo. It ran for a week. It had one showing a day, but
Okay.
at
Yeah.
like 6:30, and so Brittany and I went to almost every one of them.
Oh,
I
wow.
think
I
there
wish
was
I
one
would
we
have known
didn't go
you
to.
then because I was here. I moved here at Alamo Draft House. I love that in College Station. I
Yeah,
like both. I loved just Alamo Draft House, but was introduced to the guy who runs College Station, and
yeah.
it's just a fun
Curtis,
one. Curtis is really
Curtis,
good. Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
you've
who
worked
got
with
us in.
Curtis, so and
Yeah,
Curtis
yeah,
will
yeah.
to be on an episode of mine too.
Nice.
We're already chatting about setting up a
The
time and stuff. And so with
Good.
him, I'm excited to talk about also movie theaters because I know he likes to write and
Yes,
stuff, but
that's
with
interesting.
movie theaters, so I'd like to kind of talk about like how him and his the guy who owns it and the investor because it's a just a private owned movie theater
Right.
and they're even harder to keep afloat and they're doing
Yes.
well like it is I don't know if you've
Yes.
been there recently but the
Yes.
outside is one of the most
It's
beautiful
beautiful.
artworks and everything like
Yes.
that, the way they do it. So my wife and I have been going there on Tuesday nights. It's
Yeah.
crazy. The last 3 Tuesday nights, I picked the same place. My wife doesn't like to sit with people, but I have to sit kind of in the middle and farther
Sure.
up. And
Mhm.
so I've saw like this one person, and so I bought the tickets next to them. It's been the same guy. So we
No
were at
way.
Ready or Not 2 the other night, and I was like, "Hey, is this gonna be weird?" But weren't we sitting next to each other last week at Project Hail Mary? He's like, I
That's
thought
awesome.
you looked familiar. So we just started chatting. So I was kind of
Yeah.
joking with my wife, like on Tuesday night, I was like, I wonder what movie this guy might show up for. So I might try to go
You guys
because
you
it's
need to
like
get his number.
they've been 7 o'clock movies. I know I'll recognize him
Yeah.
if he's in the lobby and I'll just say,
There you
hey,
go.
and so, yeah, so it's just kind of funny. So College Station's been kind of fun. But Alamo
That's a
Draft
great
House, so you
place.
guys got to do that. I really wish I would have known because it would have been fun just to go.
Yeah, it
Because
was
that's one of
pretty
the things about
cool.
Alamo Draft House. If anybody is in a town or you're anywhere within an hour of an Alamo Draft House, like St. Louis
Yeah.
has one, Austin, Texas is where they started. It was some brothers that started. If you get a chance, Denver, Colorado, I believe, has one. If you get a chance, you got to go to the movie 30 minutes ahead of time. They make special trailers just for it. Did they
Yep.
do something for you guys, or did because it was
We
just
got to do the pre-show. They had a
you
couple
guys got to do the pre-show? Okay,
they
awesome.
gave us Curtis told us like it's this much time, and so we put our like we put what did we put? We put like a couple short films in there. Like
Okay,
I mean, it
okay,
was like we did a whole bunch of we went and found some old stuff about Scream, and anyways, it
okay.
was just a bunch of random stuff. But it was something Brittany had come up with. But yeah, it was
Nice. So
pretty
they
cool.
yeah, so Alamo does that, you get your food, and then they're
Hmm.
pretty anal about sound, like, you can't even bring your kids unless
It's
it's
wonderful.
like, the theater has to say, "This is a kids-free showing," because, they want everybody to be immersed, it's really big, I actually was a part-time waiter there years ago, and my wife lived here, and I
Really?
I worked there just so I go to movies for free,
Sure, yeah.
but I want
They did Eldritch, we had the same kinda thing with
yeah,
Eldritch, it screened there, and so it was very cool for us to get have, like, our friends and they had 2 showings the first night, they had 2 showings almost simultaneous,
okay,
and, on the premiere night, and we got to do a little Q&A on both. They staggered them so one would end, and we could do a Q&A, and then we went to the other showing after it ended, me and Brittany, and then our lead, Emma Reinagel, who plays Hadley in the film. So the 3 of us went and did little Q&As with the other theater, and it was so fun, and they let us use the whole, like, they have a bar there, and they let us just take over that area after the film so we could just sit and visit and talk and just, talk to all the people who came to support us, and how cool that was. And so it's definitely been a long road to get here. Doing this is the first film I've been a part of this where I was this deeply involved in the distribution side of it. Like, of course,
okay,
Eldritch got distribution. There's the first film I ever DP'd, the feature film called Vincent's Vow.
yeah,
It got distribution, but I wasn't really involved in any of that process. And so this was cool to get to be a part of. I mean, I'm having to, the film has to be exported in a certain way.
sure, okay,
There's all this kind of stuff that you have to do for them. You have to do subtitles, and then you have to take the subtitle file, and you have to go. There's places online you have to get it converted into closed captioning. You have to send them what's called an M&E file, which is just music file, a music track, and then an effects track, so they can,
yeah,
if they want to be able to dub it in other languages, they don't have to. The dialogue isn't in the sound and the music; they can dub it over it. And so, just little things like that you would never think of having to do. But now that I've done it, everything. There's another feature that I had to just did that's called Finding Joy. It's about to get distribution on through film
okay.
rights, but it'll be on all the streaming services. I don't know exactly in the next couple of months, I would assume.
Oh, so it's in the pipeline to be pretty quick then
Yes.
for you,
Yep. We
okay,
just sent off the hard drive to them with all of the stuff that they want posters and screen grabs and all
sure,
kinds of stuff. And so, anyways, the process is very complicated, and like you're dealing, and then getting the contract figured out and all that kind of stuff. And you have to take it to a lawyer and all. I mean, it's probably not interesting stuff, but there's just a lot, even for a little indie film,
yeah,
that, we had to jump through all their hoops, but it was we're very proud of the film. I mean, I'm super proud of it. She was Brittany Greer, the writer director. She's not in the film. Finding Joy, the writer director, was Valerie Bates, and she's the lead in it too. And so, and she wrote and directed it, and she edited pretty much all of it. Now
okay,
I edited all of Happy Halloween, but I did what they would call like a fine edit on Finding Joy, but going through, and she basically just handed the film to me, and I finished coloring it and helped with some of the sound and stuff like that. But it is, it's with Uncorked Entertainment is the
okay.
distributor. They've
Uncorked,
been
yeah,
really they've been really great, and it's been cool getting to work with them. And they cut a trailer, which we were super stoked about. There's like a whole new poster. I thought the trailer, they did a really good job on it, making it. I'm proud of the trailer that Brittany and I did, but
yeah.
theirs is probably better than ours. But that's fine. So
Well,
it's
they got that experience too,
they
you know what I
do,
mean?
yes,
Yeah,
yes. And that's what I told Brittany. I said, I love ours, but ours is like, it's for the love of the movie. And not that
sure.
they don't, but theirs is more about how do I get eyes on this and
Yeah,
how do
yeah,
we
you
make
gotta get
money?
exposure, and you gotta
Exactly.
show me something that
You got
makes
to
me go, "I'm
really,
gonna come
yep,
in," or "I'm gonna spend time sitting down and renting
exactly.
this," or whatnot. So, yeah, I get
Yeah, you
that,
got to
and
suck people in. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, April 14th, it'll be live. We're pretty excited. I mean, I've seen it so many times. So
Yeah, I bet
I
you
don't know
you're
if I'll
like, "You
sit
know
and
what? I
just,
probably won't sit and watch it." Yeah, yeah. No,
I'll
I
go
will. I'm
on.
saying you're probably like, "Oh, I've seen it so many
I
times."
am.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
probably go on Amazon and buy it just to
Yeah.
support us, but I don't know that I'll just sit and watch it again. But I
Yeah,
know
yeah, I did
everything
that
that
with
happens.
Eldritch. I did that with Eldritch, and so I'll do that for you guys too, because
Thank
it
you.
was cool
I
when Ryan
appreciate
told
it.
me about Eldritch, and I was like, I'm not much into. I'll talk with Ryan, so I don't want to go too much into that, just because it'll be part of that episode.
Sure.
musicals ain't really my thing. So it was really a strange type of thing. So I was like, oh, I'll give it a try. But I just want to support, especially with somebody
Sure.
and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go into this little segment. We've done this in the last episode. We'll probably do it most episodes, where we're going to do Mount Rushmore because, as you can tell, so I'm a big fan of movies, and so of course I have a lot of experience. But sometimes on the other side of the screen, people it becomes a business. But with David, y'all, this guy really loves movies. As you could tell, like he just recently got married. He's a family man, and he works a full time job. So everything he's telling you and everything he's done has been in his spare time. It's been on his weekends off, and same thing with like Brittany and people like.
Mhm.
So a lot of these people that do these short films, that do these films that finally do get picked up by the distributor, it's a big deal for them because it's a lot of hard work. As you guys heard, I mean, it took way back. This was way back in 2023. So congrats on that. And
Thank
so
you.
I have one question, and then we're going to go into our Mount Rushmore of horror movies. But this question is about Uncorked. So when you guys finally get picked up and
Mhm.
somebody says we want to distribute your film, has anyone contacted and said, what's your next movie? Can we get a look at it as well? Like, is there that relationship, or is it more like distributors are kind of like, nope, they're just looking for something that might be a quick fill in for a slot? Or is there something where there is a contact now with Uncorked where you can say, hey, our team is doing this? Like, is that
Right.
happen, or is you just haven't had that much experience yet? I was just kind of curious.
No, it's a great question, and it's both of those things. Not necessarily with Uncorked. We had a distributor that wanted to just buy the movie. They just wanted to give us a chunk of money, and the movie was theirs. But then they were going to give us another chunk of money to make another movie, which would then, of course, be theirs. Now, these guys, there's obviously without giving away details of like the actual contract, it wasn't like that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But there is that's one of the things that they've talked to us about is, we would love to maybe potentially, no guarantee, once this is out, obviously a lot of it will depend, I'm sure, on if the movie is
Traffic,
successful
streaming.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
them, right?
Viewerships and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and did they make money on it? And so, that there's definitely the door is there for us to pitch another film to them. That's one of the things we had what's called a sales agent, which is kind of like a middleman between us and them, which at first we didn't have one. And honestly, I took some of Ryan's advice. I think they had a sales agent at some point. I think they finally got a sales agent. Maybe I might be making that up, but I feel like I did it because Ryan. We thought, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
one of those things where you don't know these companies. We were getting emails. I would get an email once every 3 weeks, once a month, I guess, which
Yeah.
doesn't sound like a lot, but over a 2-year period, because people would see the status of it on IMDb and reach out. Like we got from obviously it's smaller, like Uncorked distributors, but wanting to like talk about distribution. And it's like, I don't know if are we asking the right questions? Or can we trust these people? And so
Sure.
finding someone, Cole Payne is the guy's name that was our distributor or our sales agent. And he actually reached out to me. He was actually if you look up or if you Google the Missouri tax credit, film tax credit, his name's all over that. He was one of the kind of lobbyists for that in Missouri to get that tax credit for films and to try to encourage productions to come to the state of Missouri. And so he has a lot of experience with indie film, with producing. He does more producing than he does directing now. He's
Okay.
produced several films. So having his expertise, he had a prior relationship with Uncorked and some other places, but we trusted him. It's like, hey, here's what here's what they're offering. Here's what it's going to look like. And these guys are because he's produced some stuff through them. And it's like,
Yeah.
he's going to help us kind of figure out the best way to pitch the scripts. Brittany's got 3 scripts right now, feature length scripts that are
Okay.
basically sitting ready to be pitched. And so to answer your question, yes, that's one of the things one of the reasons we went with them was because we felt like we could trust them. We had somebody who had worked with them and
Okay.
had success. And then there was the potential there, no guarantee for a future to maybe get some help to make the next film, because we basically had nothing to make this one. It was pretty much everybody volunteering. Our lead actress was driving down from St. Louis. I mean, she was staying on people's couches.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was and I appreciate you so much saying that about, it's truly, we do this because we love it. We love
Yeah.
it. You get on, you'd work till 5, you're on set by 6 or 6:30, and then you're driving home when the sun comes up. Like if you don't love doing it, you're not going
Yeah.
to do it. And during that time, as you're driving home and you're slapping yourself to stay awake, which is the 100% what would happen. Like I'm thinking to myself, is this really what I want to do? Is this
Yeah.
worth it?
Yeah.
And then I go home and sleep for 2 hours, and I wake up and I'm like, "What are we shooting today?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, "Let's go." So I mean, genuinely, I'm almost surprised by it sometimes how much, because it's hard. It's not
Yeah.
easy.
I bet.
No day on set is ever less than like 12 hours, and you're on your feet the whole time, and you're go, 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 go. And and so it's very, if you don't love to do it, then, I see movies and you think, oh, these guys they're making millions of dollars, and Ben Affleck's getting $12 million to go make some movie. You thought, "Oh, who cares if you have to do it over the night?" But it's still hard.
Yeah, yeah.
$12
No,
million
I hear you.
dollars does not change the fact that
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
exhausted and that you can't keep your eyes. You know what I mean? So whatever. I get, and it's hard. It's not a process that's for the weak of heart, and but it's the most satisfying to see words on a page and read them and then watch them on a screen. There's just something so cool about it. And it's collaborative. There's not one person can do it. I mean, you can go out and make movies by yourself. You can, but there's so many people, actors, directors,
Yeah.
cinematographers, people bringing food, whatever. There's so many people that are the sound guys. There's so many people that it takes to do it, and it's just a cool process.
No,
I can't get enough of it. So,
no, I
anyways,
appreciate that. No, and then so we're gonna get a little bit into just movies that excite you. So when you were
yeah,
getting into Happy Halloween and you and Brittany were talking, shot listing, and all that, I'm sure there were things like, drawing inspiration from this and that. I'm kind of curious if Hadley is her play on words for Haddonfield for Halloween. I don't know if that's where the inspiration of the name
that's a good.
Hadley came from. I,
That's
I would
pretty
ask her
good.
that if we can get her
When you
on, then
watch
I'll yeah, yeah, I'll ask.
when you watch it, there's a sort of subplot, I guess, a little bit of a subplot about there's a one of the kids, it's teenagers,
Sure.
played by 25-year-olds,
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
teenagers, there's these different people that their dads are running for mayor. Anyways, there's a scene where this kid is nailing in or like putting in a sign for his dad. The last name is Prescott. So if
Oh,
that
okay.
tells you,
Yeah, yes.
because Brittany is the biggest Scream fan. I think it's
So
like her
she's a
favorite
huge
movie.
so
Oh
okay.
my gosh. It's the biggest Scream fan
Yeah.
in the world. She just got back she went to Planet Comic Con, I think it was last 2 years ago, and saw
Okay.
all anyway, so yeah, this is a
So
Scream. If you
th
love those movies, this is a homage to
so
those
this is
kinds of
her
movies.
baby that she just came from her
Yeah.
love of those kind of movies. So
Yep.
with you, so let's go. We're going to talk about our Mount Rushmore of horror films. Now, I know you had said it when we were messaging, you're not a big fan of the slasher side of it. And so I love slasher. I like a lot of like serial killer stuff like that. And so we're
Sure.
going to go into that. Before we go into that, so what's the movie that got you into just wanting to
Sure.
do that and
Yeah.
give those weekends away and those 12-hour off days? You know what I mean? Like, what
It's
got you
so
into
funny.
this?
Well, it's funny because you asked that. That was one of the things I had in my head. Is like, he'll probably ask me, how did I even get into this stuff? But I didn't, like, my son, my middle child, my son he's almost 12 now. So it's been 12. When he was born, I don't know what it was. Something clicked. I was 30. Something clicked in my brain. I was older than that. I was like 33. But anyways, something clicked. I don't know why, but I got this desire to want to do photography. It's such a weird thing. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't explain there wasn't like I saw a picture or there was something that just clicked in my head. And so I went and bought like an old film camera, Pentax K1000, which is an old kind of durable. They've been around forever. They don't make them anymore, but they were like the staple in the 70s and 80s. But film camera, learned to shoot on film, learn the exposure triangle. And then I bought a Canon 6D, and which is, a nicer, has all the bells and whistles and autofocus and all that, all that kind of stuff, and exposure meter, because my Pentax had you just had to meter it basically.
Yeah.
So anyways, it was very, very, very intimidating at first, but learned to shoot manually, which is on my 6D, which is just to, like, again, you set the aperture, the shutter, and the ISO. You do all that yourself in tandem to get the right exposure and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
but then that got me into doing photography. And then I realized that my camera would make movies. It shot 1080p. They made really good movies. I made really good images. I was like, oh, dude, I can make movies. Like, what? And so at that time, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube. People were doing it with those kinds of cameras.
Okay.
I got into that, and then I didn't know anybody that made movies, so I got into doing wedding videography. So I shot a lot of weddings, and
Okay.
then finally I met my buddy Thomas Turbyville, even into making movies. We talked movies. He was making a short film. I got on that set. and then the rest is history. I've been
Okay.
making movies basically ever since then. That was like 2015, I think. So it was like, yeah. So I still did a lot of weddings the first couple of years, but about
Sure.
2018 was when I just like 28 between 20. Yeah, between 2021 and 2024, I think between 2018 and 2024, I shot 5 feature films.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I went from like not making anything to just doing basically nothing but making feature films. So, but anyway, so but the movies, you're talking about movies.
Yeah.
So there were 2 movies that made me want to, and they're same director. I don't know why,
Oh, no
but the
worries.
2 movies were Signs, and not even cinematography, but just making movies. I
Sure.
wanted to be involved with this process, and the movie Unbreakable. Those 2
Gosh, what a
movies,
great movie.
I know.
I'm a big
I
sh
worked
my
at
oh, I
See,
love
I
both
worked at
those
a movie
movies.
store,
Okay.
and I worked for 2 years in Harrison, Arkansas. I worked at this movie. It doesn't even exist anymore because they don't, I worked there when they were still selling VHS. They still rented VHS. It was a rental place. I worked there for 2 years. I watched a million movies. Every movie I'd ever want to watch, I watched them all. Anyways, but I remember when it switched over to DVDs. This is like 2000. And so, but I remember we got a screener for Unbreakable. And I remember it was one of those ones, I don't know why, but I just never went to the theater to see it. But we got a
Yeah.
screener for it, a VHS screener. I took it home. I was like, I don't know what it was. And then, of course, Sense came out, and then he did Signs. And Signs to me is it's one of my favorite movies. And it made me want to make movies. But then I realized when I watched movies, because of doing photography, I wanted to make these images that I loved how movies, like, how did they do it? What cameras are they
Sure.
using? How are they lighting it? All that kind of stuff. Because lighting you can have the best camera in the world, but if your lighting looks terrible, $100,000 Arri Alexa is going to look like
Yeah.
crap in the hands of my 4-year-old daughter, as opposed to the hands of Roger Deakins, because he's going to
Sure.
light it. Lighting is everything,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's
we
what
don't
I've
have to get
heard.
into all that side of it, but yeah, those 2 movies, I don't know that there's really anything there's probably honestly, there's probably some like Roger Deakins movies but honestly, like some stuff that, like a lot of the stuff Zack Snyder does,
Yeah.
his movies are so visually
Yeah,
gorgeous,
yeah.
regardless of whether you think he's a good director or not.
He's
They're
number 1.
beautiful.
My first Mount Rushmore will be from him and James Gunn.
Ooh. Oh, I think I know what it
Yep,
is.
yeah,
Anyways, I'll
so
let you we'll get into that stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to the art of making movies and what it took, and the way M. Night Shyamalan told his stories they didn't feel like they had big, huge, big blockbuster budgets. I'm like, this is a movie that's really good, and it's just told very simply. It's just 2 people.
yeah,
There's not a ton of VFX, just good movies being told. But they're genre movies. They're not just dramas. It's not, you know what I mean? It's movies that are a superhero movie and
yeah,
a movie about aliens, and it's like there's no spaceships, there's no there's no craziness. There's a couple of shots of an alien, but they're very
yeah,
quick. They're right at
yeah,
the end, except for the famous scene where that's like
yeah.
it walks through the alleyway and people freak out and all that stuff, but which freaked me out. But
Yeah, yeah, no, Unbreakable is just
it's a
people,
phenomenal
they don't
movie.
give it enough credit because
They don't.
it's not it's not a superhero movie, but it takes I mean, M. Night did such a great job taking the
Yep.
idea of comics origins, and he created
Yep.
this story, and it's a slow burn. It's just a slow burn, and then when we get to
It's
the
so
ending in
good.
that, when he's in that subway and that music's kicking, and then he goes to that house. Oh my gosh, Unbreakable.
Dude,
My
there's no
brother and
dialogue at
we
the
were
end of
s
that
I know,
movie.
we were so in
Oh,
love with that movie. We wanted, like, more of that movie, and
yes.
so, I'm gonna start off Mount Rushmore with
Okay.
we're gonna have to give I'll try not to do this. I've gotta do 5 because I gotta give a honorable mention. It's not on my Mount Rushmore, but it's
Okay.
right there. Split. When I saw
Mm,
Split in the movie theater, being the diehard Unbreakable fan that I was and
hmm.
having no clue what was gonna happen at the end of
Me too.
Split.
Me too.
First off, James McAvoy got snubbed. That dude should have got best supporting
Oh,
actor, best supporting actor, best supporting actress, best supporting like he should have got everything for that movie. It was
yeah.
phenomenal. And
It's so good.
when people poop on Split, I'll never have you on my show. I'm just joking. We can have subjective views. No, but Split
Yeah.
was phenomenal. Anna Taylor-Joy, you didn't know much about her yet. She
She was
killed
still
it.
pretty new. Yeah.
Everything. And then but me and my wife were in the theater. And it's a packed theater. We went opening night,
Mm,
and I'm sitting next to like these like 3 15-year-old girls. Like I don't like, it's just the two of us, and we were sitting there, and it was this big AMC theater on the one that has the IMAX. And so we were at that theater at the time in Springfield. And so we're sitting there. And when Bruce Willis shows up, I'm like,
I heard the music.
yeah,
Oh,
and I freaked out. Like, I can't remember the
yeah.
last time I mean, my wife will probably say, no, you do it a lot, where I'm like, I get excited. I got so excited, so much so the girls just said, "Hey, what is going on with you?" Like, they were like, "Are you like, is there like a mental problem? Like, like, no,
Oh
they're like, what?
no.
Like, we didn't catch, why were you so excited? Do you just love Bruce
Yeah.
Willis?" I'm like, "No, y'all got to go watch Unbreakable. It's a
Yes.
sequel. It's one of his best twists because you had no clue
Yep.
that was really the twist, was it was a sequel."
Yep. Yep.
And it was
It
so
was so
amazing.
good.
So
Oh my god.
so
And it's like
Splits,
you
yeah.
see Dunn, whatever. I'm like,
Oh, yeah, I know, dude, I'm telling you. Split is, we
yeah,
just her and I have talked about rewatching it recently
yeah.
because we go through these phases, like, well, like for a couple of weeks we'll watch nothing but horror movies or slasher
Hmm.
films, and then we'll just do a bunch of comedies, and then she's got to do her romances. But yeah, so I'll start with that's my honorable mention. It
Cool. That's a good one.
probably could make the Mount Rushmore just because of how it meant to me, because sometimes it's
Sure.
that emotion. Like, I'm not afraid of my Mount Rushmore does not have to be Academy Award winning, or it's my Mount
No.
Rushmore, like yours. So
Sure.
what would be your first, what would be like when you think of horror movies, what would be like, hey, I don't know if it's number 1 or 4, but it's that this poster's going on my Mount Rushmore wall. Like, what is that for you?
Yeah, that's pretty easy for me. It's The Ring.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
That now the remake, the American version,
the
right? Or were
American
you a
version.
version?
Now
Because I know,
Ringu's excellent. It's
yeah,
really good. But I was introduced to the Ring before I saw
yeah,
Ringu. But but what you, like you said earlier, and I've talked about this, and even Brittany knows this. Like slashers, I love Scream, and I love like Halloween and all those Friday, Freddy and Jason, all those. I love them. I watch them. I've watched them a million times, and I love those movies. But they're not scary to me at all. There's
okay,
nothing. Maybe some of them are suspenseful, but I want a movie that's going to make me want to turn the lights on. That's to me is scary. And I watched The Ring in theaters, and I went home and I turned every light. I slept the whole night with every light in my house on. It scared the crap out of me. I'll never forget when they see that she's talking about that girl,
hmm,
that she found the girl, and they shows that quick shot of her like opening the closet, and she's just in there like, and I just,
yeah,
it's not even like I don't, that whatever, it's one of those things. Sometimes I think whatever mindset you're in when you watch it has an
sure,
impact on you, but I still watch that movie. That's a movie that I watched that made me, you're talking about what made me want to be a cinematographer. That was one of the movies, now that I'm saying it, because it's so beautiful. And
yeah, it's great.
how they shot it, how they made it look green like that. It was an effect that was shot in camera. They actually put a filter on the lens, which is, there's a video out on YouTube. It's amazing. It's so cool how they did it, but because it helped preserve skin tones and all these kind of things. But
Yeah,
that movie, I don't know what it is. My gosh, man, that movie is just, I will forever love and adore and I'm in awe of that movie. I don't know why. The dread, that every scene in that movie is dread and like sad, and there's no uplifting or heart, or like even at the end where you think everything's okay,
yeah, that's a great
they
horror movie.
still
That's the
have to,
problem is,
she
it's
has to
like,
guide his fingers to push it in, because he has to be the one that does. I'm just like, oh my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
they have to make somebody watch this movie. It's insane to me.
Yeah, you're making
Anyways,
me
it's
want to
just,
rewatch it. Like, I'm like, oh
I
man, I
know
I don't know if I
it's
was
so
as excited,
dark.
but like sometimes just like it can be contagious. I'm like, oh,
The energy that other people have.
I'll ask Christina and I, be like, hey, have you ever seen The Ring? And if she hasn't, boom,
Y'all need
we're
to
gonna watch
watch
The
it.
Ring. So yeah,
There's a shot in it. There's a shot where they're kind of at the beginning, where there's a stairs where those two girls are like talking about this video, and
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
shot of the stairs, and you see her feet just run up the stairs in the bottom of the frame, and they leave that shot.
yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's not even creepy. It's beautiful. It's so good. The lighting, the color, it's, anyways.
No, yeah, no,
That made me want to go and make beautiful movies.
no, that's nice.
So, anyways, well, what's
Mine's
yours?
mine's an easy one. I'll be the only one that I pick that I think like everybody, some people like. I don't even know if Curtis would like this pick. I think we've argued about it, but The
Oh no,
Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, the remake. Kurt Russell,
no,
everything about that movie is, so I love broody music. So the music of that movie
yeah,
drives every single scene. Just the slowness of the boom, 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 boom. Just that
yeah,
slowness. It's not over the top. The the mystery, the who's who.
yeah.
That scene when they start coming up with that task, and then you have this ending that's been talked about for decades.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Was he
still
an
you
alien
still
or
have
not?
so many you still have so many different theories. Now, I played the video game that kinda gave its answer. So, John Carpenter wrote that 2011 Xbox game, and I was so excited for that game.
Yeah, dude.
So, and it kinda gives you a little bit of an answer, but then it's not technically canon. So anyway,
Right.
I just to this day, if I could reboot a movie, like a franchise, I would probably say, "Let's get Wyatt Russell to play his dad's
Yeah.
and then what happened when they rescued? And they rescue both him and Childers. They both get rescued,
Yeah.
and then it's like which one of them might have been, or were they not? And that was the thing. You know
Right.
what I mean? You don't know because
Yeah,
there's those
yeah.
theories about the breath and the
Yep.
alcohol and all that
Yep.
stuff. And so there's
All
so
that.
fun. And so the thing is just like that's why
It's
I'm
so
I'm not
good.
anti remakes because
Sure.
another one of my movies will be I've got two remakes in my Mount
Really?
Rushmore. Yeah,
Nice.
two remakes. But the thing,
I liked the Thing remake.
yeah,
Not as
it
much
is.
as the first one. I enjoyed it.
Oh, I liked
I
it
enjoyed
more.
it.
I know the old and I know it's good, and I know it's if you watch older black and white movies, it's
Yeah.
phenomenal for its time,
Yeah.
but dude, there's not a character I wasn't immersed with it because that's the thing about
Yeah.
horror movies. The problem with horror movies today is it's gore porn and you don't care about them dying.
Right.
I wanted these guys to I didn't want any of them to be the alien. I didn't want any of them to be the
Yep.
thing,
Right.
the guy who loved the dogs. I love dogs.
Yeah, I know.
And that was brutal, and then and just the paranoia and all that stuff,
The
I thought it was
suspense and the
awesome.
who's
So
who.
good.
There's a great episode of the X-Files where they have like they dig this and it's on the ice, very similar. There's this
Yeah.
parasite, and I don't know if you've ever seen that episode, but it's very much that way. Like they
Isn't
don't
that the
know
beginning
who's
of the
infected.
movie? Oh, is that just an episode? I
There
thought
isn't.
they
I think the movie kind of starts up, but there's
yeah,
an episode. I think
okay,
it's the second season. It might be the
okay.
first season, but of the X-Files. I used to love the X-Files, but
Yeah,
anyways, but it's that suspense plus the thing, that suspense of not knowing who's who,
yep,
trying to find out who's who can you trust, plus the horror,
yeah.
the practicals effects. Oh my gosh,
Oh, yeah, just
it's
amazing.
just the mount. It is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of like it wasn't even on my list, but you can't
You can
deny
say it's
that
an honorable mention. You don't
it
have to
is.
change your list. Me and Jeff
I
had, like, 3 of the same movies, and I had to change my 4th one because I was like, he picked Remember the Titans, and I'm like, "I'm
yeah.
not picking another one of your movies."
Well, I think it's one of those ones where it's like it didn't necessarily like have the impact on me. It's not one of those ones I revisit all the time,
Okay,
like some of the ones on my list, but it's one of those ones I have no problem if somebody was like the best movies ever made, best horror movies ever made. This is on the list. I'd be like, yeah, duh. Of
arguably, yeah.
course it is.
I use
You
the phrase
can't. It's
arguably, yeah,
arguably, yeah. It's hard. You
arguably.
can't exactly. And yeah. It may not be on my list of ones that were. And I think Mount Rushmore for me, ones that had an impact on me,
Sure,
ones
that's what
that
it
just
meant
like
that's
they
to be.
affected me in a way. Yeah. So, and I mean that movie affected me. And every time you watch it, God, you're like, they made this, man. Like they made this with like no money, and it's like
It
John
holds up.
Carpenter,
We
hundred
just watched it
percent.
this past October, and the practical effects don't hold up to CGI, but they still hold up to even movies today that use practical effects.
Yes.
It's got some cheesiness now with some of the scenes, like, it's a little like, when I was a kid, I never wanted to do CPR on anybody because of the scene, right?
Right. Yeah,
Right?
because it's gonna grab your
Yeah,
hands.
yeah, so but it's just
That's funny, dude.
chef's kiss, it's so
It is
good.
chef's kiss. It's so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, it's really good. So,
So number
my
2 for
gosh.
you, so you got The Ring, what's your
Yeah.
next one?
So I'm like half writing my list as we're doing this.
No, no,
So
you're good.
I'm gonna say The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a classic. I think it's one of those like kind of like The Thing. It's like, oh yeah, everybody says but I remember watching that movie the first time when I was in I was probably junior high probably. And I remember I was at my buddy's house and my parents wouldn't let me watch anything rated R. PG-13 was fine, but rated R stuff. We could watch it on TV. I had all
Yeah.
this I can remember the first time I saw like the Terminator that wasn't edited for TV. And
Yeah.
so stuff, Terminator 2 and stuff like that. But I remember watching that and just, I like movies that are more like hauntings
Sure.
or exorcism, like
That supernatural
possession.
element, so, like, The Ring. So,
Yes,
yeah, so you're
yes,
drawn
yes,
to that okay.
yes. That stuff is way creepy to me than Jason, who just doesn't die, or like what I
Yeah.
mean, like, or
Yeah.
Michael Myers, who just keeps coming back. Not that those movies again aren't good in that. I enjoy them, I do,
Yeah.
but they don't have an effect where it's like I'm like wanting to turn the lights on because I'm like, God, there's every sound makes you like, it's like I get freaked out watching them. And so The Exorcist was one of those, and it was so and I think too, 'cause, I grew up going to church and a Christian, and it's
Yeah.
something about that like religious side of it, and just the like, gosh, man, that like, and of course I love the young priest. Get me an old priest and a young priest, let the power of
Yeah, so
Christ
there's
compels you. But it's just like it was so well done and so eerie, and just the characters. You cared about the characters, and there was the way it was affecting these people, the way it was affecting everybody in that house
yeah,
and everybody involved. And then you see the struggles of like past of Father Karras, like with his mom, and that the spirit, this demon uses it against him. And
yep.
so there's just all of this stuff that's like, it was just compelling, and it was really good drama, and you cared about, it wasn't just like, oh, this person's, where the whole movie is just the exorcism. It was this building up to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
How
it's
it
an
was
iconic
affecting
movie.
her mom. And
Yep.
it's just so good. So, and pea soup, you can't
Yeah,
go wrong with pea
oh,
soup.
yeah, that's
So
great
anyway,
scene.
great practical effects. Just they made her look so awful, and just there's obviously some really horrible things, like some of the stuff she says to some of these people. I mean, it was really awful. Kind of like, dang, they put that in a movie, and that was all right.
Dude, yeah,
But
and
it,
she was so little, so it's just so weird to see
yeah,
a child actress have to
saying,
go
doing,
through that and be like
yeah,
so pivotal to the scene. And then there's this funny
yep,
movie. So when I was a kid, I saw that, and then later on, I was a big Naked Gun fan from like Leslie Nielsen and stuff. Well, they had
yep.
a movie called Repossessed where they make fun of a lot of the possession movies, and
No,
they've got a clever way they do all all that kind of stuff. So
that's
you were
awesome.
talking about that, and it brought that back. I remember me and my cousin watching that, and it's just like, oh, this
Nice.
is so cool. So yeah.
Yeah,
So so we got two possession movies so far. I'm kind of
yeah.
curious if another one that's pretty popular in the last 12 years might be making your list. So mine, I'm gonna go to you made fun. So I was gonna do a different one first, but I'm gonna go to my one that scared me to this day. I
Hmm.
still look under. So I still look under when I go to like stay at a cabin or like go to camps because like I've done youth ministries and things like that. So you go to camps and stuff. So to this day, if I'm on the bottom bunk, I look under my bunk bed. The original Friday the 13th, the original, because it wasn't
Yeah,
Jason, and
it
that was
was.
a
It was
good
his
thing about it.
mom.
And so
Yeah,
there's a scene where Kevin Bacon he gets grabbed from he's laying on his cabin, and
an
that's
arrow.
Kevin. Yeah, he gets that arrow through his neck, and I don't know for someone who talks a lot and always talked a lot. I'm like, chop off my hand. I could probably survive with chop my right hand off or my foot.
Yeah,
Don't take out my vocal cords or my left hand. I'm a lefty, so it's like I
yeah,
want
yeah.
these two things.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that
but the
movie.
original Friday the 13th scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Sure. Yeah.
It was like that perfect formula of don't have premarital sex or you're going to die. All
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
as a youth pastor, I used to always argue that horror films were like so religious. Like if you think about it,
Yeah.
like anytime you did these sins, you were dead. Like
Yep.
and so then the virgin girl always survived, right? So like there's this formula, and
Yep.
so it's very interesting back then. And so like you mentioned your faith, as a Christian,
Mhm.
but I'm like the opposite. Like I believe in the supernatural, but sometimes supernatural movies, it's like it's too much for me. Sometimes they're too much for me because it's like I don't want my mind
Gotcha.
to go too crazy into that realm because I think
Oh, yeah.
there are a lot of churches and people that
Sure.
get a little bit. And so, like for me, like when we watch The Conjuring, my wife's like, "We're never watching any of these kind of movies ever again." Like it just messed her up. Like she just, you know what I mean? So I'm more of
Yeah.
like horror, slasher, zombie stuff that can't really happen, I guess. That
Yep.
I want to, that have that suspension of belief and just
Yeah.
enjoy. So yeah, Friday the 13th was freaky. So that's the very first one, the one with about the mom. And so
That's
his
good, dude.
origin. So it's a good one. So all right. So now you're on your third. What
Yes.
is your
Okay, so
third?
this is one. I don't know if it's. I don't really hear a lot of people talk about this movie. And not that when it was out, it was popular, but the movie Sinister with Ethan Hawke.
Yeah,
That movie was another one that thing freaked me out. And again, it's very like moody, and just the use of seeing that thing's face, the mask, I guess, is
yeah,
kind of how it looked. Watching those old, he finds the old 8 millimeter, I think they must be 8 mil or 16 eight
yeah.
millimeter
The old,
tapes,
yep,
and he sets out the projector and he's like watching them, and then as he starts to sort of investigate, look deeper into it, these things, starts to show up in some of the, he sees the reflection, the face, and I mean, there's a part of it that's a little formulaic.
sure,
Like Vincent D'Onofrio's in it, and his character's kind of like this expert on
yeah,
all
yeah,
this
yeah.
stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is what
You
everybody
got to have
does.
your
But
expert.
yeah, you got to have the expert who's like a scholar. He teaches college, he's a professor, but which that's all fine. But I don't know, there was a There's just something about it. Even the ending, I thought, this still kind of, it gets him, in the end. And I'm just like, and those tapes survive. And I don't know. I think I like stuff like that, that it's like, there's no good, feel good resolution to it. It's
Yeah.
like,
So you walk
it,
out still as shocked
yeah,
as
you
you
still
did
feel
during.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's no like happy, even like with like the ring that they survive. She and her son survive, but the only way they're going to survive is they have to let somebody else watch this movie, which
Yeah,
means
that
they have
idea
to
of
die. It has to keep going, or her son dies. Like she has to do it, and it's like, my gosh, what is? I would do that, I guess. I mean, I'm not gonna let my, but
yeah,
it's
that's what
like,
I'm saying. Like there's that
it's so
movie It
crazy.
Follows. It Follows is a movie
Yeah,
that's
that's a,
similar to like that, where it's
yep,
just like it's never gonna you can't
spreads.
defeat it. So you have to
Yep,
at some point you either gotta be like, I gotta take one for the team and I'm not
yep,
gonna, give up my morals or whatever.
yep.
And so you're ultra and so to be the hero, you gotta die. And so some people don't want that. And so then it's like already you
It's
set up,
interesting.
you just set up that. So
Yep.
yeah, what's crazy is so confession, Sinister, I've never seen to this day.
Okay,
And
well, go watch it.
the
Oh,
reason why I've never seen Sinister is also the reason why I always have to go to movies opening night for the most part. Somebody on my Facebook way back then
spoiled it.
spoiled the whole movie for me.
Oh
And
no.
if I know the ending, it made me, I was so excited. I like Ethan, I was so excited to go see this
Yeah.
movie.
You
I
should
can't
still
tell
see
you.
it.
And so the movie I saw instead of Sinister
Yeah.
was The Looper, the one with Bruce Willis. So when this
Freaking
person ruined the
amazing.
movie,
They gave you a
I
gift.
went on theirs. Well, no, I went and saw The Looper that
You
night.
spoiled it?
That I spoiled that movie for that dude. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? I just spoiled a horror movie. Nobody cares about horror movies. I did. Like yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like I ruined the Looper for him. So like that was like payback.
It's like spoiling Sixth Sense.
Yeah, like
It's a horror movie. People,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like could you imagine back
what an
then? Like,
idiot.
dude, if a Thursday night I'd gotten on, because back then you probably had just Facebook, and if you got on and
Yeah.
Thursday night of Sixth Sense, someone said, this person was dead the whole time. I would have been like, what? I
I
would have,
know.
so like I
Yeah.
used to get in, I didn't, so stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just never
Well, you
seen
should check it
Sinister,
out.
even though I loved the Black Phone.
Yeah. Black
So
Phone's really
and
good.
I
Yeah.
liked, and then people forget Ethan Hawke, The First Purge.
Yeah, that's right.
So the first Purge is
Dang.
freaking awesome. I like the
It
second one.
is.
Frank Gorilla's character in the second one's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite. Like when you talk sequels, it's like I thought they did a good job of one-upping the original.
Mm,
And so it's one of those that I wouldn't say it's like the greatest. I'm not saying like it's the greatest sequels out there, but it's just one of
right.
those evidences that you can make a second movie and
Yep.
it can truly follow the formula of being bigger, but then
Yep.
truly one up with characters and things like
Yep.
that. So
Yep.
you're going, okay, so yeah, dude, Sinister. I'll have to. So funny thing about Sinister. I don't know if you've checked this out. It's considered one of the most. They did some kind of study when people watch horror movies and they check people's heart rates.
Hmm.
Sinister's the highest heart rate inducing. Like it's considered the scariest
Really?
movie of all. Sinister's considered the scariest movie of all time
No
because
way.
of the heart rate study that they did for scenes of the movie. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So Sinister's up there. So
I
so
know I only like the good ones.
all those judging David for an Ethan Hawke horror movie, you are
Don't you
wrong.
do it.
You are
Don't
wrong.
you do it.
Is science has backed up the Sinister being one of the scariest movies of all time. So with my third movie, we're going to go
Yes.
to another remake, and we're going to go to Zack Snyder and James Gunn collabing on Dawn of the Dead. Is my
Yeah, that's a
To
good
this
one.
day, I love Shaun of the Dead. I love Zombieland. I love comedies, but it
Yep.
is the number one zombie movie. It is better than the original Night of the Living Dead, which did start it all. Thank you, George Romero. You know what I mean? And I get all that. But Dawn of the Dead from beginning to end, that beginning, and then even the beginning of that movie sets
Oh
up
my!
like that little daughter and the
You are.
husband,
You talk
everything
about
about that movie. Oh yeah,
You
Hook. Oh
talk
my
about a hook. Oh my
dude,
gosh!
you are immersed into right off day one. So like we're not immersed into, and that's what was cool about Night of the Living Dead. Him and the sister, the brother and the sister Barbara were at the cemetery, and so
Right.
it was kind of a slow build up, but then once it hit, you're like, oh crap,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole rest of the movie is amazing.
Right.
But with Dawn of the Dead, like boom, right off the bat, just intense from beginning to end. Every character you're like into, like they did a great job.
Yep.
Even the bad guy. I mean, that dude went on to what is his name? He went on to be in Modern Family. He's Ty.
Oh,
It's Ty something. Why?
my gosh!
I apologize. But dude, that guy was so awesome in Dawn of the Dead. The hero, like when they were sitting
Yep.
around the table, like you when you watch horror movies, you don't think about emotional moments too much, but the scene where they're talking around like what they want to do, and he just said, "I just wanted to be a great dad," and then and that's when you realize that his son didn't survive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just everything
Oh,
about that movie was so good. You know, the only thing I didn't like about that movie was the whole pregnancy thing. Just a little over the
really?
top, just a little over
It
the top.
definitely was like it was almost like
It was a little
they
out
needed
there.
more danger inside of
And
the.
that's where they got it.
Yeah,
And I get
yeah,
that. And I get that. So don't
yeah.
get me wrong, but man, it
I
just
get it. No, I feel you.
such a phenomenal movie. So when it comes to horror
Yeah.
movies that are just well acted, well, like there's no bad effects, there's no bad story.
No.
And when the humor is there, it is on point. Like when
Yep.
they like James Gunn knows how to use comedic relief in tense situations to
Right.
perfection. Like he does a great job at that. And you have to give him credit for that and everything.
Yep.
Whether even if you're a Snyder bro, you still got to give Gunn credit for just how he can use humor in these things. And so, yep, Dawn of the Dead, number
Yep.
3, easy one for me. Thing, Friday the 13th, Dawn of the Dead. So what is your final one?
I'm sitting here writing. I'm like writing down, trying to decide what I want to do because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's
I.
like there's so many good ones. Like when you start thinking about horror movies, you don't really most people don't sit around like when you're making a horror movie, you
Yeah,
guys probably sat around talking about them. But
we
most
did.
people, it's like dudes, we talk a lot about action movies, comedies, things like
Yeah.
that. And so
Yeah.
those are really easy. That's why I always say like comedy will be I'll probably never do a Mount Rushmore of comedy because I can't boil comedies down to 4 movies. I just can't do it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then I'll probably try to throw a comedy into each one, just something like I did for sports. I did Talladega Nights because it's like it's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
So, but
So okay, I'm going to put this one. Have others on my list but I think this is probably just because of how I remember how I reacted to it and what impact it had on me at the time. And even when I watch it now, I think it holds up. And that is the Blair Witch Project. I watched that movie, my buddies and I, me and my brother Charlie and Anthony and John and like my buddy Chris Hart, like we went and watched this movie. I remember us going up the steps to watch this movie to the theater in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And we thought at that point they really had like you're like, was it really a real story? Did they,
yeah,
all this marketing, they tricked you
all the
into thinking it was,
marketing was it was a real story.
because these were
And
like no name actors. It was
yep,
shot, they and the making of it is interesting too because they just sent them out with like they would leave them notes overnight, like here's what the next day you should. This is what should happen. And they basically just left it up to them to kind of improvise as they went, and so a lot of that went on. But the idea when I watched it, that's you're going into it thinking, God, is this really real? Did this really? And so that in the kind of in the back of your mind, was like I don't know how old I was, probably 17, 18 when it came out. But like, I remember just, it's so simple scares. It's just, they wake up and there's these little wooden things that are made
yeah,
out of
yeah. It
sticks.
was
There's
just
nothing
freaky. It was
scary about
freaky.
that.
It's freaky.
Yeah, yeah, and it just people outside banging on their tent. There's nothing in that movie. No creature. No, and the shot of like where they go to the house at the end, and then the guy standing in the corner. He's got his back to you because earlier in the movie they talk about them having their backs turned, and then you see this guy and he's just standing there, and he's got his back turned, and she screams, and it's just like the simplest. There's nothing. It's almost like it's kind of like with what was that movie? Oh my, Paranormal Activity. Same thing.
Okay.
Very simple effects, very simple stuff, but it was the dread, the sound design, the acting, the atmosphere that it created. It helped the shaky cam and but I thought the character, them arguing, they're lost. They're kind of starting to lose it a little bit. They're all obviously on edge and super stressed, and that just translates into you're feeling that same thing. And I just remember it being terrifying at night, and you hear those sounds, and they're
Yeah.
running to the forest, and it's just, I don't know, man.
Well,
It
and there
just had
wasn't
an effect.
it made found footage. You put it on the map. Yeah. So it was
Exactly.
it
There
was the
wasn't anything like
cleverness. There
that.
was the cleverness. It was, and then now we have too much of it.
You have too much.
Because
That was
I
it. That
well,
was all you
like with
got.
Blair Witch, I started loving those little they made VHS, and so there are
Yeah.
these horror movies what was just compilations of them finding
Yes.
all these things, and
Yeah.
some of those are like freaky. Like you're like, I
Yes.
shouldn't be watching this kind of stuff.
Right.
Like it's like,
It's
oh my
good.
gosh, like am I a Christian? I don't even know if I should watch this. So it's like, you're
That's
like,
funny,
I
dude.
don't know if I should like this. So yeah, but Blair Witch was,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
There's another one, another good found footage, Lake Mungo. If you've ever seen Lake
Oh,
Mungo,
I gotta write that down. I've heard of Lake Mungo, and somebody else
it's,
has told me to try that out,
I
but I've
watched it
never watched
again.
Lake Mungo. I've got to.
I probably watched it last year. I bet I watched it again last year, and it still holds up. It's found footage. It's
Yeah.
it's very much like they're interviewing these people. They're talking to them. It's sort of but the footage is stuff that they had recorded. This girl that goes missing,
Sure.
it's like stuff on her phone, stuff they set up. Anyways, it's this, but it kind of makes you kind of buy into it. The interviews are very like, they're interviewing the parents and the brother, and it's like it just feels kind of real, and they do a good job of sort of, I love that interview style, like, and then you see the footage, but they're interviewing the people who were in the, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, but
Yeah.
that, like, Mungo was another one that, like, it really freaked, it made me like want to turn the lights on and not like Jason. And again, those
Yeah. Just slashers
never
don't do
scared me.
anything.
They
Yeah.
just don't do anything to me, for me. And it's like, but there's something about the unseen and the stuff that you can't get away from this spirit, but I can run away from, you know what I mean? I feel like I could run
Yeah.
away or hide, but you
Yeah.
can't get it. I don't know. There's just something. I love like the haunting of the house, and what is it? The haunting of Connecticut. What is the haunting in Connecticut?
Yeah. There's The
It's a
Haunting in
kind of,
Connecticut.
I think that
Yeah.
was the
There's a
first
bunch
one.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, I think it was the first one that came out, and that one kind of freaked. I remember it being very well done, and I just like, that's my kind of I guess horror. Brittany calls it, was it elevated horror? I guess there's a term for elevated. Like the Babadook is another really good one
Sure.
where
I've
they
heard.
delve into if you've not seen that, yeah, because
I've seen The
it's a
Babadook. It was one of those
it's
movies that
really
got hyped
good.
up, but it was one of those movies I just was like, I don't
Didn't
know.
really hit you.
Yeah,
That's okay.
just
Yeah,
like, what you watch those movies, you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm pretty excited," and then you're like
yeah.
watching, you're like, "Why is
What I
there
loved
why
about
is
it
everybody
was
hyping this up?" It happens.
it
We do
wasn't.
that all the time.
It did have, no, totally, and it did have. It was. I thought it had some really freaky stuff in it, some pretty eerie, creepy stuff. But for me, the idea that this woman, her husband was killed in like this car
Yeah,
wreck, and she really didn't want her kid. I mean, it was almost like she was this. He was this burden, and she missed her husband so much. There was this whole other layer of like, what? Obviously, she ends up, protecting her son, and she loves her son, and just because the beginning that kid's screaming in the car, and it's
sure.
just, you're just, I mean, there was so many more levels,
I don't think I
layers
like the
to that
kid.
movie.
I just
You
don't think I
didn't, you
like
wanted
it.
to punch him in the
I s
face.
and that's the thing
Yes.
is, like, if you're gonna put a kid in a movie, I don't think you
Oh
should
yeah.
make people hate kids. Like, don't make you hate the
No,
kids,
but I
right?
think they,
I could not stand that kid.
well, and I think that was, I
And
think at
that
the
was the point
beginning, that's
probably,
the
but I
point.
just,
Yeah.
like, I
Cause
just was
they
like,
want you to feel what she feels, that
"Yeah," and I get
you
that,
can't
but
stand this kid. And,
yeah,
but
so I wanted to
obviously
kill him.
but for you didn't, he didn't ever grow on you, but he
Yeah,
grew on
yeah,
me towards the end of the film, I guess. But
sure.
anyway, so that
Yeah,
was,
no, so okay.
so yeah, that's my, I guess
Alright.
that's my list, my
No, that's
four.
good,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is there's just so much good movies out there. So the one I'm gonna pick is I'm gonna cheat. I
Sure.
don't know if it's technically under the canon of horror, but I think it should be. I think anything with serial killers should be horror. And so
Sure.
I've always been torn between Silence of the Lambs
Mhm.
and Seven. So those are your
Seven.
2,
Yeah.
and so, like, if you're talking thrillers, they probably both could be on my Mount Rushmore, or if you're
Sure.
talking serial killer movies, they probably both. So I'm gonna go 7.
Okay.
I think that, yeah, it's a cop movie, it's a detective movie, but, I
Mhm.
mean, it's pure horror. I mean, this serial
It
killer is
is. Yep.
doing and the scenes you're seeing and the way he kills these people, the scene where the one guy with lust, that, like,
Yeah.
scarred me. That
My
dude
gosh.
acted so like, I felt so bad for that. Like, I've never,
Oh my
like,
gosh.
hurt for, like, a character, right?
Yep.
And then at the end, one of the greatest lines ever, "What's in the box? What's in the box?"
Yeah. What's in the box? What's in
And
the box?
Spacey etched himself as, like, just like
Yeah.
that is an iconic, nobody knew he was gonna be in the movie.
I
He
know.
wasn't really known that much yet, but, like, he just, just had this one of the, like, just the I don't know, there's just something about his performance as that killer that was
Yeah.
so nonchalant. He
But
just
yeah,
was
he was truly psychotic. I mean,
he
he was a
just
sociopath.
he
Yeah.
was a true believer in what he was
Yep.
doing,
Yep.
and he thought he
That's
was the
what's
good guy.
eerie, is when
Yeah,
somebody, when the killer, when they believe so, they think what they're doing is right and good, and ultimately
yeah,
they're doing it for a good reason. That's the evil. That's the killers or the bad guys in movies that are the creepiest, or the, I think some of the best, is because they just believe wholeheartedly that the evil they're doing is for a good reason, and you're
sure.
like, what?
Yeah, no, that
So yeah,
was, that
that's like
movie.
on my Mount Rushmore of like all time favorite movies. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no, so
it's
I don't know if it technically I think it still would fall under horror, because
sure.
it was either gonna be that or Event Horizon is also up
Oh, that's
there.
another good one,
Yeah, but I
dude.
might put
Yeah,
that one, like, when it comes to, like, space movies, like, if I ever
sure.
do, like, somebody who likes, like, a lot
Space
of
horror.
sci-fi, space, or just space
Yeah,
movies in general, Event
yeah,
Horizon's probably one of the I'm not a big fan of, like, being in a submarine, being in an airplane, or being up in space, which is weird because Project Hail Mary is probably one of my favorite movies of quite some time,
yeah,
but I don't like a lot of isolation type of stuff other than the
yeah.
first Alien, but they had a
Yeah,
huge crew and
they
they had a
did.
planet they went to. So
They
there's
did.
more. And Alien could be up there, dang.
Alien was one I thought of.
Yeah,
Even
Alien.
Aliens, but Alien
Aliens. Well,
especially.
Aliens is like one of the greatest action. It's so freaking good, man.
Oh
So,
my
but the
god,
first
dude, it's
Alien,
so
people
good.
dark. So, Alien to me, I think a lot of people loved it, but Aliens gets all the credit, like because it just had so many iconic lines.
Yeah,
It was more action packed.
it was.
She really, Ripley really becomes this badass and has this awesome fight scene with this, and so there's just so
Right.
much to love about Aliens. But Alien, dang,
Alien is so
you
good,
forget
dude.
about that. That was a good movie.
Alien is so much more about it's so much more atmosphere and slow burn,
Yeah.
and I love that about it. There's and it's interesting to see two different directors take on the same story and how they, because James Cameron's way more about action and it's fast and let's go, and Ridley Scott is too, but he does he it's I feel like his are more of a character drama than Ridley Scott does, or than James Cameron's. I know you have like Titanic and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
like Terminator is not. I mean, I don't watch Terminator for the character drama. I watch it for like the Terminator. Like I watch it for the action and for all the cool stuff that's in it. And I mean, the stories, the idea of the story that this is connected and they're trying to stop this. It's just
Well, yeah, like
so.
that's
Anyways.
like so like T2, that's a good example. So that's what I was trying to think of with Aliens. Aliens is so a movie like Aliens is just like Terminator 2, where you forget how good the first one is, but the first one's a
Mm-hmm.
true horror movie, where the second one becomes like more like an
Yep.
action movie than a
Yep.
horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, if you think about Nolan's, people forget how good the Batman Begins is. Really, it's probably the best of the three. But Dark Knight is amazing. It's just a great. I can watch.
So
I don't think there's a movie I've watched more than The Dark. I actually, well, part of it was
interesting.
I was in a gaming group. We were always playing games in my friend's basement, and
Yeah,
we would just always had The Dark Knight on, and then we just
that's
stop
funny.
and watch certain scenes. And so technically, it probably isn't the most movie I've watched paying attention to, but it's probably the most watched movie under my
That's
list. I mean, we're
interesting.
talking 40, 50 times this movie's been on
Wow.
while we were doing stuff that whole year and stuff. But you forget just some of these sequels, and that's what you want from a sequel. You want something
Yeah.
that is something different or something new. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, one of these times, if you make a sequel to Happy Halloween, or if you make a sequel, so then we can
Brittany
start.
has one.
Yeah,
Brittany has
okay.
one written.
She's got okay. Well, if it gets picked up, we'll have. But maybe we can have both of you on, and we'll just talk about
I
sequels
know
and
we need
and
to.
great
Yeah.
sequels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go. So we were talking about two other things: good, the bad, and the ugly, is a segment that I
Mm-hmm.
was going to introduce. And so I'm going to give
Sure.
you a choice.
Okay.
Do you want to dive into the good and the bad and the ugly and be
Mm-hmm.
my first guest to do this segment? Or are you really excited about the blank check we were talking about? So I know that we were talking about that.
Yeah, the blank check.
As somebody who's been in hasn't had money, I thought you
Mm,
might really like the idea of having so blank check basically is I'm the Elon Musk of movies. So instead of buying Twitter, I have decided to infuse billions upon billions into Hollywood because I want movies to be
right.
good. I want them to be awesome. And I am going to write you a blank check. And so I need you to give me a story, a
Hmm.
director, actors, actresses. You don't have to go as far as you can be the cinematographer.
Yeah,
Jeff
I'll shoot
Hamm,
it.
that guy had to be the director. I was like, well, I'm
Whatever.
not paying you a billion, but I'll give you some money. But so that or the good, the bad, and the ugly will be a new segment where we just talk about a good film that we put our phones down and enjoyed, a bad film that's just not for us and we're never going to watch it again. But the ugly is something like Tuco was in The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, my favorite Western, on my Mount Rushmore of Westerns. Tuco had all of his warts, but at the end of the day, he had value and there was just
Hmm.
something about him. And so Ugly would be a movie that's just something that you love where you could see people not liking it,
Yep.
but you would watch it again and you would tell people, hey, I want you to check out this movie. It might not be the greatest, but you got to check it out. So you know what I mean? Something like that. So you
Let's do the
choose
good and
what.
bad. Let's do the good and bad. And the, I mean,
Okay,
the
good and
Elon,
the bad. And
the blank check one's very interesting, but it's like I feel like that. I mean, give me Christopher Nolan as a director, and I'll
yeah,
shoot it, and
yeah.
I mean, it's I don't know. Like I feel like that's I mean, it's a cool question because
That's
it
just
does make me
talking
think.
about who you like.
I don't even know this.
Tarantino. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Now, as far as the story, I don't even know I don't know what story I would tell.
All right, so
There's so many. There's no
let's go the
originality
good.
in the world.
So we got in the good. So we have this good character in Clint Eastwood's character. He wasn't really, if you think about it, he really wasn't that good. He was kind of there was a scam going on,
Right.
but he's the good character. So what is a movie that's good that, it's just from beginning to end, you were immersed in it, something in this last year where you're like, man, and it can be, something everybody knows, Project Hail Mary, but what's just something that's been a good movie that you have no problem suggesting to people because you feel like most people are going to come back, oh yeah, that was pretty good.
I mean, honestly, Project Hail Mary was the one I had in my mind.
Yeah,
Just
it's not
because
going to be
it's
mine. It's not going to be mine.
okay,
So
because that
yeah,
was the
yeah.
one I just, and it's funny because I mean, I need to watch it again. And here's the thing. So I read the book. I love the
Oh, you read
books.
the book. Okay.
Yeah, so I love the book. I mean, I'd read The Martian. Everybody's seen The Martian. The same writer that wrote The
Okay.
Martian wrote. Yeah, so very much science. There's a line from The Martian. You're going to science the poop out of this. It's
Yeah,
very.
yeah, yeah.
That's how the. So I went and watched it. I went and watched Project Hail Mary. I think anybody should. I think most people have probably seen it. It's doing so well, but
Mhm.
it's such a fantastic movie. And to me, it's like there's a part of me. It's like I wish studios would say go movies like Top Gun Maverick, Project Hail Mary. Just make movies that are entertaining.
Yeah.
Just make movies that are fun, that have like heart and have good stories. You don't need just make entertaining movies.
That's why I was gonna
And
write you a blank check. I wanted
see,
to
I
make
know.
no,
Hey, I could figure that out. So isn't it interesting that the movies that make all this money are just good, entertaining? They don't win the Oscars. That's fine. They used to win Oscars. The best movies of the year used to win the Oscar. They don't
Yeah.
anymore. That's fine.
No. Yeah.
They don't anymore. But what was the big one last year? I can't remember what the big movie was last year that was so good. I can't even remember. But anyways, but Project Hail Mary, read the book. The book is excellent. I saw a review on Twitter, on X. Somebody just had like 6 bullet points, and it was like it had all these things listed. 5 of them were like, I loved it for this, I loved it for this. And I was like, this is great. Yeah, this is so true. All these things I agree with. And the very last one, it said what was in my mind that I hadn't really been able to put into words, and
Okay.
it said, I wish there was more science.
Yeah, because I guess there
There's
was that's the thing that they take from the book is but
yes.
then that probably would have like, listen, I like
I don't think
science
it affects
stuff.
people who didn't. If you hadn't read the book, you didn't
Yeah,
see so much more. It's so amazing what this guy has to figure out on his own,
yeah,
and he's
yeah.
obviously smart. And they show that he is. I do think they make him seem a little goofier at the beginning when he's on the ship by himself and he's just kind of like dressed in unwashed. I'm like, that's not really who this character. To me, in the book, wasn't that way. He
Yeah.
obviously is funny, and in the book, you're reading it. And when they announced that Ryan Gosling was going to play him, I was like, that's perfect because that's who this
Yeah.
guy is.
Yeah.
But it's very much that way. But there was a lot of there. I was a little. I need, and everybody I've talked to about it, like I want to watch it again because I feel like now that I've seen it and I know what's in it, like I kept waiting and missing the science. I kept
Okay.
missing the really interesting stuff that he had to. Like at the beginning, he just wakes up and he goes through the hatch, and he looks out the window and he's in space. And he figures out he's in space. But in the book, he wakes up. That's how the book's the same way. You wake up. This guy doesn't know his name. Doesn't know where he's at. He's in this little room. There's these mechanical arms. He realizes that it's some kind of hospital. That's what he thinks it is. He tries to
Yeah.
go through the hatch. They won't let him leave the hatch until he says his name. The computer won't let him leave until he remembers his name.
Oh, so that's a little bit more elaborate with the
Yeah.
amnesia is more important
And
plot.
so it's just like the movie. That's where it starts
Okay.
to feed in. He starts to remember things.
Okay.
And all that stuff is just like in the movie. And they did a good job with that. But he finally gets out the hatch, and he doesn't realize that he doesn't know he's on a ship. And it's very it's very a throwaway line in the book, but something falls or he drops or knocks something over. And he's like, something's weird about he can't figure it out. And it's just a very quick, and he's on to whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
And then he circles back around to it, and he realizes that gravity is off. And so he does he's like, for like an hour and a half, he just
He's
does
just
this
testing
test. He tests it in speed and with a stopwatch and tracks how long it takes something to fall. And then he gets an average and he figures out that the gravity is off. And
See, you're nerding out because I would have been
Yeah.
like, this, like it was really funny when he's like trying to flop
No,
around and stuff, and so it
it's
got me
not.
hooked. But then if he immediately started
No.
going like, if we had like a 5-minute montage of stopwatch and dropping stuff, Ryan Gosling could probably pull it off
He
to be
could.
funny.
And
But
I'm
then it
not
would have been
saying-
like, I'm not making, I'm just saying.
I'm not saying that it has to be it, but I do think I feel like there was more science in The
Sure.
Martian. I
Yeah.
feel like they pulled more of that in than they did in this. Now, the heart of the movie is, and the same with the book, is Rocky and his relationship with Rocky, and
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
astro.
my
You
wife
know,
loved Rocky.
it's like when we went and watched it in IMAX. I got a little pin that says that it's like
Fist my bump.
Yeah, fist my bump. No, it didn't
Fist
say
my
that.
bump.
But
my wife and I were like, fist
Yeah.
my bump.
it's he says amaze in the book. He's like amaze, amaze.
Amaze,
And it's
amaze,
like,
yeah.
yeah, and that's what the pin just says, amaze. Like my brother Charlie's wanting to tell me about the movie, about the book, and he literally has a shirt that he's been wearing for like 2 years now. It
That's
says got astrophage question, because that's one thing
Okay.
they don't do in the movie. Is in the book, every time he that
Rocky, well,
Rocky
he
asks
says
a
question
question.
a lot. He
He
says
does,
question a
he
lot in the
does,
movie, and I
and the
loved it. It
book
was funny.
it's
It just
question, yeah.
yeah, he would say
Yep.
question.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so, and then one thing they don't touch on that I think is interesting is that there's his atmosphere is super hot and the gravity is like it would crush Ryan Gosling if he was in his gravity. That's why at the end, when you see him on this
In a
planet, like
bubble,
above,
it's
he's in a bubble because Ryan Gosling's body couldn't, and it was so hot.
I
There's
thought it was
one
just because
scene,
of atmosphere. I figured it was
no,
just because he couldn't breathe,
when he
right? So it
passed,
just
and
made sense.
yep. And when he passes over the thing at the very beginning, he sends that little tube over from the one ship to the other,
Yeah.
Rocky sends it over. In the book, he opens it, he grabs it. He's so excited. He grabs it and it's so hot. It like burns his hand.
Okay.
And that's just because Rocky's atmosphere is way hotter. And
Okay.
when he opens it, there's all this ammonia and it almost like makes him throw up. It's so bright. It's just these little
Yeah.
things that this is me complaining about
Sure.
it,
This
but
is you nerding out. This is a
well, it's like,
cinematographer
no.
talking
But in
about
the,
60 kilowatt camera lenses with flares.
yeah,
Yeah, this is just
but
nerding
it
out. It's
was,
all right.
I don't know why it affected me so much because I love Harry Potter, read all the books, watched the movies. But for some reason, the stuff that was left out took me out of the movie.
Oh, okay.
At times it took me out of, because I knew what, at this point there should be these things that were so interesting in the book that made it so compelling. And the
Yeah.
movie still obviously is still great without them, but I thought you could have really made it. I think they could have made
Yeah.
it cooler for the science side of things. And I saw an interview with Ryan Gosling. He was talking about he had to write on this board a bunch of stuff. And he said at one point he finally had to have the writer, Andy Weir, in his ear telling him what to, they put an
Because it
earwig
was
in.
so hard to
It was
figure out
so
these formulas.
complicated.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's not really, so I imagine there was probably more science in the movie that got cut out, but
Sure.
the movie's fantastic. It's so heartfelt. It's such a,
Oh,
this is what you want to go to the movies and see, to leave feeling good and have this really great, experience in the theater. And I do want to see it again because now that I know what's not going to be in there, I think I can enjoy what is. And my expectations, I think, maybe were a little bit high. So that's
all
my
right.
good. That's a
Okay.
long good.
That's good. I will go with a streaming movie that I just
Okay.
watched last week. I liked it
Cool.
so much that when I went to see my dad, I got there, and my dad's who got me hooked on movies when I was a little and all
Nice.
that kind of stuff, and have a lot of great memories of certain movies growing up. But as soon as I got there, I was like, Dad, you're going to love this movie. You're going to watch this movie. It's called Mike and Nick and Alice. It's Vince Vaughn playing Vince Vaughn. And then he's also playing Vince Vaughn. He's like a present version of his character. There's like two different versions of this
No
character that he's
way.
playing. James Marsden's in it. And
Okay.
I
I'm
can't
writing it
remember
down.
I can't remember her name for Alice, but she was really awesome. I feel bad that I forgot her name. I hadn't seen her before. I think I've seen her something else, but I just don't know her really well yet. But she was like amazing. Keith David shows up in it. It's humorous. It's got really good action, like surprisingly good fight scenes, actually.
Okay.
So it's an action comedy. It's on Hulu. So Mike and Nick and Alice. And so far, anybody that
Okay.
I've mentioned it to has not said you wasted my time. Right. So I
Good.
like try to
Okay.
give a good example, just a good movie that like I try to give like a movie that isn't like in the theater.
That's
You know what I
great.
mean?
Yeah, I
Just
wish I'd
because,
done that.
yeah, well, no, it's easy. Well, the question is just what's something good?
Yeah,
Because the
that's good.
ugly might be because then, so the bad is what's something that didn't do it for you. So, of course, Project Hail Mary won't be your bad because you want to see it again. So,
Right.
but what's something that you've seen? And we don't have to denigrate, but that's part of
Sure.
being a fan is there's just stuff we don't like. And so, what's
Yeah.
something that was like you were excited to see it, or you just watched it because someone recommended it, or you just were flipping it, you and the wife were flipping it, and you're like, didn't make it through it, or you were on your phone the whole time? What's something that just
Yeah.
didn't?
Oh gosh, I had one in my head earlier today. Now I forgot what it was. The first one I thought of was, this is an older movie. We don't have to discuss it. I'll just throw the name of it out there so people can come into your comments and yell at you. Star Wars Episode 8. All right, moving on. That's my bad.
Okay, the episode 8.
Return the last Jedi.
Or 9. I don't.
Nope.
So just so
9,
you know,
I didn't even mind 9.
okay, so I liked 7, and then I hated
9
8
was
and
bad.
9. I hated 8 and 9. You're not going to get that from me. And if I did not like 8 or 9 at
I
all.
Okay, well, I didn't mind 9 because I felt like this is just them trying to fix what they screwed up in 8.
Yeah. Oh, well, 8
anyways,
was just.
don't get me started.
8 was,
okay.
Yeah, trust me.
I'll say this one thing about 8. I'm going to say this one thing about it, and this is going to. So this is the 8th Star Wars movie. There's been TV shows, cartoons, bajillion books written. This is the 8th Star Wars movie. Everybody's like, Gareth Edward or whatever, yeah, or Ryan Johnson or
Yeah, Rian Johnson. Yeah,
whatever
it's
his
like
name, yeah, that
Rian.
whatever his name is, the idiot. He did what was the movie? Looper. He did Looper, which is
Yeah, Looper was a
freaking
great movie,
amazing.
dude.
It's
I love Looper.
amazing.
Looper's a really
But
good movie.
but you remember all these Star Wars movies, the original trilogy. I mean, some of the it's like everybody's seen Star Wars across the globe. Everybody knows what Star Wars
Sure.
is.
Yep.
They have this ship that's following them, and they fly, use hyperspeed or whatever it is, warp speed, and they fly through the ship and it destroys it. And I'm like, so I was like, pause the movie, call George Lucas, be like, dude, you know that Star Wars movie you made? The beginning of it where it's like it starts off and the Star Destroyer's chasing the little ship that Leia's on, and it's like all she had to do was just fly to the Death Star and then go put a drone, put C-3PO in a plane and fly him through the Death Star. Movie lasts 10 seconds.
Yeah, just one of those.
What are we doing? What are we
Where's the science, George?
George?
Or Rian.
Well, it wasn't
Rian,
George.
where's the science, Disney?
Just, you've got to be kidding me. The movie was garbage. The whole thing about
the whole
them
story
going
was dumb.
The whole thing was stupid. Rose and what's his face going off to this other planet.
Dude, they introduced Benicio del Toro, and I didn't
I know.
I love everything the guy's ever in.
He's amazing.
And he's finally in a Star Wars movie. And
this tells you there's like 15 or 20 minutes of this movie where they're on this other planet with Benicio, where they meet him.
Yeah,
you could cut all of that plot stuff out, and the movie is exactly the same. It's garbage. They had Luke throw the lightsaber. This guy's whole life had been Star Wars. Again, it's a slap in the face to Star Wars fans. It's like, I mean, and that's one thing too. And this is a knock against all three movies. The sequels, as they call them, the sequel trilogy is we never got Luke like we had Luke. We never got to see
him in
Luke
Mandalorian.
Fight. Well, I mean, we never got
when he
to
showed
see.
up in Mandalorian was his best scene. Do you know what I mean?
But then he's young. You know, he's still young.
Yeah,
but we never got to see 30 years later Luke and Han and Leia on a mission together.
Yeah.
They're doing what they do best. He's being a scoundrel. Luke's being a. You can say, well, these are new movies. No, you don't introduce these characters and then suddenly you're going to change everything they've been for the last 30 years. It's not everybody was the same except for Luke. And you didn't see Luke in the first one. Han dies in a pathetic way.
Yeah.
It's just, I love the idea of it was tough. So anyways, that's my bad.
That's your bad.
Yeah.
Well, my bad is it's just came out on streaming, but it's been out. It came out in the theaters last year. I was so excited about it, and I'm probably one of the only people that hates it, but I hated Nobody too. I just did not like.
I haven't seen it yet.
I loved Nobody. It was
good.
a comedy John Wick. It was awesome. It was a comedy John Wick. It was amazing. There's a succession where every April there's just a funny comedy movie action like Bullet Train.
Yeah,
Boy Kills World. Have you ever seen Boy Kills World?
I don't think I have. The Bullet Train was great.
It's with Boy Kills World with Skarsgård, who played Pennywise.
That's right. I haven't seen it.
Dude, that movie's a phenomenal. Everybody, if you've not watched Boy Kills World, you're stupid. Go watch it. It's awesome.
Okay.
Or Boy versus World or Boy Kills World. Awesome movie. So and then Bullet Train, Nobody.
Yeah.
But then Nobody 2 came out, and I'm gonna be honest, man. If you guys are, what's her name from Basic Instinct, Shannon, she was horrible.
Is she really?
Dude, she was like she made the movie so bad. Every scene she's in was just over the top stupid. And then the movie felt like cookie cutter, like they almost took the same movie and just did it in a different such situation. And then they included the family, but it was like the same, like instead of fighting on a bus, he fights on a boat. You know what I mean? And so
I was kind of excited to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
It's streaming now. So I saw it opening night in the theater, was hyped up. Go to the movie theater, all excited. Went and saw it by myself, which I usually don't go to movies by myself. I was just, I'm not waiting. I'm just going to see it. Went and saw it, and I was just like, Shannon, she's so horrible. I forgot her last name. I used to know her name until Nobody 2.
I can't think of it. I'm trying to sit here.
Shannon. I got to look it up for the nerds.
Yeah,
but that's my bad. I don't even.
That's a bad one. That sounds bad.
It sucks because now, and he's got a movie coming out. Bob Odenkirk's got another one like Nobody coming out in a couple weeks. Yes, it's coming out. It's called Nobody, or it's called Normal. But it's not getting the greatest reviews, but I'm going. I mean, I'm not going to let Nobody 2 bother me.
I didn't really know very much about Nobody. I just saw that it was kind of getting, people were kind of talking about it. I was like, okay, well, I'll check this movie out. It wasn't like, oh my God, it's
Sharon.
Like
I was saying it wrong.
Sharon Stone.
I'm so dumb. Shannon.
Yeah, I was like,
she was so bad. Nobody 2. I changed her name. That's my bad. Sorry. Sorry,
Just
Sharon's out
besmudge
there.
her. She's cashing a paycheck.
Some person named Shannon's like, why does he hate me so much? It's Sharon Stone. She was bad in this
Yeah.
movie. So I'm
I was trying to think. There was something. Another movie I saw. I'll say recently. I finally watched it recently. It's been out for a while, which was the Ant-Man into the Ultraverse or whatever it's called. I
the
don't
third
know.
one.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
the one where they
Quantum. Yeah, it's trash.
yeah, Quantum.
That movie's trash.
I didn't even finish it. I love Marvel movies. I'm a big defender. I'll give them such leeway to be bad. I
Yeah,
couldn't even finish that
that's
thing. It
dude.
was so awful. It
Ant-Man's awesome.
was
Ant-Man,
Ant-Man's great.
dude, he's so
He's so
good.
good.
Everything about Paul Rudd. But man, I'll tell you what, that third Ant-Man and then Death of the Unicorn, just 2 movies. Death of the Unicorn could have been my bad this past year. Just did not like
Dang.
Death of the Unicorn.
I haven't
Wasn't a big
seen
fan
it.
of it. That was like early last year horror comedy. Like I
I've
think it
heard
was
of
like
it.
last January. So, but that's my bad. So how about the ugly? How about
Yeah.
something that somebody's gonna watch this, they're gonna watch the movie, and they're gonna hate you for it. But there's just some about the movie you love. It has its warts, but something you like.
This is the one I told you Ryan likes too. I think
Okay.
it's Ryan that likes
Okay.
it. Nobody else
this is
gets
the one
it
we
but
talked
me.
about where I might. Okay, so what is it?
I think it's Ryan that likes it, that he and I like it. No, it's not Ryan.
Okay.
Curtis. It's Curtis.
Oh, then I'll probably hate it.
Curtis Killingsworth.
I'm just joking.
M. Night Shyamalan, Lady in the Water.
You just watched that recently?
No.
Ugly? Oh no,
It's
Lady
one
in the
that,
Water.
No. It's not one I watched recently, but it's one that I know people hate. And that's one of the first ones they really started giving M. Night Shyamalan crap about, because it really kind of started going down here. That was like before. What was the one that he did with Mark Wahlberg? This was before the Mark Wahlberg.
The Happening. The Happening is
with the air, where the air was getting people. Was so stupid.
The Happening should have ruined careers. I'm glad it didn't, but it should have.
I'm glad it didn't, but it should have.
I'm glad it didn't, but it should have. It was.
M. Night Shyamalan's not really, and I'll even say like some his last 2 movies that he's done, The Cabin in the Woods or whatever it was called, was okay.
I read the book. He follows the book pretty good.
Does he? It was an interesting premise. Yeah.
It was one of those
interesting premise. Some good performances.
I didn't think Dave Bautista. I
thought he did a good job in it.
He was good at it, but in the book, I never pictured that guy to just be a pro wrestler.
Where you're like, the book is.
Yeah.
They don't do it justice.
Well, some people did think he did perfect. So I mean, I guess I
enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed his performance. I thought it was different. I thought it was a different movie. But
yeah,
he could tell he put a lot into it. I'm like, okay, this guy's like, he's not just a guy that's there just like delivering his lines like this, like say what you about Arnold Schwarzenegger. That guy could not act for the life. He's gotten better. There's a movie he did with Abigail Breslin that's about
it's called Maggie.
That's excellent. He's so good in that movie.
You know why that movie made me so mad?
Why?
I'm a zombie fan, and I thought I was going to see Arnold Schwarzenegger
it's
going
a slow
crazy,
burn, serious
and
movie.
then he's just like this sad dad the whole movie. And I'm like,
I thought he was great in it.
He was good. He was good.
Don't
get me wrong, because he's really good. Him and Maggie is kind of like Sylvester Stallone in Copland. It's like its best acting performance. You know what I mean? It was a really good, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he acted really well, but it was like a zombie movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's like a drama like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I liked it. I thought it was good. But Lady in the Water, I absolutely love.
I love the movie.
See, okay,
I'm
great.
not lying.
See,
I absolutely.
That's
people
one of those
shit
movies
on that movie. Pardon my French, and they're wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Lady in the Water, Paul Giamatti is amazing in it. The dude who only works out one arm.
Yeah, dude.
Friggin' awesome.
I know it's stupid, but it's so good.
So stupid awesome. It's
so
good.
And I didn't even think it was stupid. I just thought, this is so cool. There's just this little community inside. Yes. There's a community, and it's all, it's outside of Pittsburgh, just like all his movies are out in Pennsylvania. Yeah. But it's like, there's just this little community of, if you've ever lived in an apartment, there's always weird people. There's the guy who's really intellectual. There's there's the guy that's, but I loved all these little, I loved the how they're supposed to, the characters and how they're supposed to, they each, how they go out and they try to there's this group of guys that do this. And there's this, this guy that can see patterns in normal. There are all these things.
They all ended up mattering. It was it was that concept of
the music.
So it's that Christian in you that's like that divine intervention. Like it was perfectly planned. Like they were all supposed to be there.
And
they were all supposed to live there, and it all worked. And Paul Giamatti is awesome from beginning to end. And so they had a great cast. Everybody. I do not get why and it had great music, had a great ending scene. Like the big climactic stuff was awesome. My gosh. When the guy realized that that's why he was so strong. It just was such a good movie.
Everything ties. It was the same way I felt when I watched Signs. and now he's saying it out loud at the end where he's like, he has asthma, he doesn't breathe, because he's laying there holding him because this poison, and literally Mel
Yeah.
Gibson saying what we're all thinking. He doesn't have, he has asthma, the poison didn't get in. And it's like, you realize that's how he got his faith back, because even his dreams of
Yeah,
and signs of his
all
wife.
the water all over,
Yes.
all the
And she tells him to,
weirdness.
she says, like, tell Meryl
Swing
to
away.
swing
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he thought it was just his wife's synapses firing, and it was memories of them. And then you realize that it
Yeah,
wasn't,
no,
and
I
that it
mean,
had meaning, and there was a reason, and he had it, he got his faith back. And that's the
yeah,
same kind of little things that tied in. And you can say it's cheesy or whatever, I don't know, but it just, and it's one of the ones where it hit me that I watched it hit me just right. And then every time I've watched it, it's one of those movies I've watched a million times, and I love it every time I watch it.
I'm gonna
And
rewatch it
it's,
actually.
yeah, it's so good, dude.
Yeah, dude, it's you know, the problem with Lady in the Water, I felt back then, you weren't seeing a lot of movies with fairies and a different world, you know what I mean? Because it's like
Yeah,
it's like a weird, she came from a pool,
it
so
was a
it
story
had
that
some
he
crazy weird type of like
it
something you
did. It
tell your
was
little kid,
very
something
fanciful.
like he
Yeah.
might have told his child when she was growing up,
Well,
just a
that's
little
if
fancy, yeah, something like that.
it's literally a story he would tell his kids at bed, and
Yeah,
he said his kids, and not Shyamalan said his kids would want him to keep expounding, and then he wrote a book.
aren't they in it? Didn't
They might be. I don't know.
he's in it, but I don't
He's
remember
in
if
it.
I don't think his kids
I don't
are.
know if
I
his
know
kids
his
are.
daughter's in. So everybody poops on
His
Trap.
daughters. I haven't seen Trap. Now I've heard good and bad about Trap.
So Trap, actually, maybe I should make Trap my ugly. I love serial killer movies, and
Hmm.
Josh Hartnett killed it because
Yeah.
the movie's not about the kills. It's a serial killer getting trapped at a concert. And
Right.
Here's where M. Night Shyamalan goes wrong. He uses his nepotism. I mean, he literally his daughter is the
Daughter.
star of
Yeah.
the movie, but she's a musician. Not only is she the star, she's like a big part of the movie more than she should be, and I think that bothered people.
Okay.
But man, Josh Hartnett was so friggin'
I
good.
need
And
to
then he was in
watch
the
it.
last year, Flight Risk. Have you seen Flight
I
Risk?
haven't, but I've heard
Dude, it's so fun. That
Is
was
it?
like
Oh,
basically that's like a bullet. It's
it
bullet
looks fun.
train. It's bullet
Okay.
train, but on an airplane. It is so fun. Flight risk.
Okay.
So like my wife's like, I was so into those Trap and Flight Risk that we just started. I've never watched Penny Dreadful. And Josh Hartnett plays like Wild Bill
He
Hickok in
does.
it. So we
Yeah.
just decided to start watching it. And then we used to like this
Nice.
show called Mr. Mercedes. And it turns out that actor, the guy from Mr. Mercedes is Victor Frank. So we just started Penny Dreadful. Like not,
Yeah.
I think we're
Is
only
it
like
Mr. Mercedes? Isn't that the Stephen? It's based on Stephen
yeah, it
King
was a
book.
Stephen King book. And,
He has like
and
there's
Brendan
a 3
Gleeson's
series.
so good in it.
Yeah, there's a 3-book series for that Mr. Miss. Isn't there? Like there's the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
detective.
Yeah, it's the
and
same detective, and they have multiple seasons of the
Yep.
show.
Yeah.
And
The
then
Outsider was one of those books that I think, isn't that right? There's a Stephen King book called The Outsider that
we want to watch. So I've watched episode 1 of Outsider with Jason
it's like
Bateman.
a prequel.
It's just like a
Mhm.
one. It's just like a one season, one and done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know that that's the same police detective though. I'm
I
not
think
sure.
it's Hodges, Detective Hodges.
That would
I
be
think it's the
interesting
same.
because I like the
I
actor
think
they
it
got
is.
in that. The actor that's in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he plays.
I'll have
What's
to
that
check
kid
that
name?
out. I'll have to check
Yeah,
that out.
it's a good series, and it's based on that Stephen King book. I read the book, and I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna look it up, but you can tell me who
Well,
you're.
so my ugly, it's not going to be Trap. So my ugly is going to be, and I've mentioned it before. So I watch a lot of independent films or horror movies or any kind of movie. Like as long as I recognize someone I've seen somewhere else in it, I'll give it a go or something. And
Mhm.
there's this movie on Prime right now called Kill Me Again. And the reason why I would call it the ugly is it had stuff that made me love it, but it's one of those movies where maybe people won't like some of the acting in it or
Mhm.
the concept or the story. The second half gets a little too weird almost, and the ending's kind of weird. It goes sci-fi
Hmm.
a little bit. And so there are
Okay.
elements of the movie where I can see other people not liking it, but I loved it from beginning to end. It's basically they make up a serial killer named the Midnight Mangler. He shows
Okay.
up in a diner, and he kills somebody, but then it rewinds and he shows up in the diner again. And so the whole movie, it's Groundhog Day. He has to keep killing. He keeps reliving the same night over and over again, and he goes
Really?
crazy. He's a serial killer, so you already think he's crazy. He goes so crazy, he goes sane. It's crazy. It's a really good movie. It's called
What?
Kill Me Again. And it's got Brendan Fear from Roswell back in the day. Roswell, he was one of the main characters from that TV show that got famous back in
What?
the day. And it's called Kill Me Again.
Kill
And
me
I love it.
again.
I love it so much I'm private messaging Brendan Fair to see if he would be on my show to talk about it. The only reason I call it The Ugly though is it's just one of those movies where I just preface it to people. I just love movies so much that when you find something that just shocks you, you get
Hmm.
more excited than maybe it really is good. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so like it has some issues. Dude, that guy who plays, he's really famous on Instagram. He's called Master American and he always does
Hmm.
these funny stuff. He's in
Yeah.
it and he's a side character in it. It's not a
Okay.
comedy. It's so it doesn't have a lot of people you'll recognize
Yeah.
and it's basically it feels like a straight to DVD type of movie,
Okay.
but it just had a premise that I loved. And so I've been like in love with
Gotcha.
movies like Happy Death Day, Groundhog Day as a horror, Totally Killer, Back to the
That's
Future
cool.
as a horror
I'm
movie.
gonna check it out.
Yeah, so it's called Kill Me Again. So I would call it that would be my ugly that
Okay.
I will watch it again. I like it. I had no problem, but I could see why other people might not be
Gotcha.
attracted to that.
Okay. I was gonna okay, real quick too. I looked up that. Okay, so
Okay.
we're talking about Stephen King. It's the Bill Hodges trilogy.
Bill
It's Miss.
Hodges. Okay.
Yeah, it's called Mr. Mercedes. The books are Mr. Mercedes, Finding Keepers, and End of Watch. The Outsider, which is a mini series they did,
Yeah.
has to do with the detective. And it's
Is it the End of Watch one or is
in
it the
this
Finder? Okay.
no, The Outsider is actually a book that King wrote called The Outsider. And in the book, you see the return of one of his. I'm reading this from this thing. Most iconic characters. Her name's Holly Gibney, and it takes him. It's her after he dies. So it's
Yeah, because
another.
Holly's awesome in Mr. Mercedes. Holly is
Yes,
the one
yes.
of the best characters.
And
If you
so
watch
Bill
the TV
Hodges.
show, if you watch the show Mercedes, if you watch season one, Brendan Gleeson's amazing, and Brendan
Yes,
Gleeson's an amazing actor. But the girl who plays Holly,
she
she
steals it.
kills it. She
Yeah,
steals it. And even the guy who played the serial
Mr.
killer,
Mercedes. Yeah, yeah.
he's freaking crazy
He's
too.
great.
Like
Yeah,
it's everything
it's
about that
good.
first season's really,
Yep.
really good. Second
So
season gets a little weird.
it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
So,
does.
and we
But
haven't watched
this
three.
okay. The Outsider is a different detective, it's a different story, or no, I think it's how no, that's what it is. This is Bill Hodges, but it's how he meets Holly Gibney. And this
Okay.
I think that's right. If I'm remembering it right.
I'll
But
have to
there's
check it out.
or it's after he's passed away and she gets hired to work a case and you hear her talk about detective. Anyway, I can't remember. It's all kind of jumbled. It's been years since I've read
I
those
just know the
books,
first episode's
they're
crazy.
really
I mean,
good. It is.
Bateman, he's accused of
Yes, Bateman.
stealing, and yeah,
Yeah.
Jason's in it. And
Well, they have his DNA.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So it's basically
yes.
it's a Stephen King horror, supernatural something because it's like
It's
how
got
is
a
to do this?
supernatural twist. Yeah,
And
it's really good. And I thought the series stuck to the book really well. And I love those books. They kind of came out of nowhere. I just was randomly listening to audio. I was on a Stephen King kick, and
yeah,
I read The Outsider first, and then I went and read audiobooks. I listened to to that trilogy,
sure.
and they were all so good. And anyways,
yeah, Mr. Mercedes I've read. I just never read Finder. I mean, that's one of the last. I think Mr. Mercedes is the last Stephen King book I actually hard copied read, and
oh really?
and then I just
Interesting.
I just didn't do Finder Keeper yet, or
Yeah.
I used to read most of the stuff, and then I went and saw. Well, that was a movie last year, The Long Walk. If you've never seen The Long Walk, that was
I've not seen it
that was
yet.
one of my favorite movies of last year.
I gotta see it. I've
was
heard so many good things.
It just was a good movie, man. I'm not gonna call it my ugly because the only thing I think that people can complain about is it's just a bunch of kids on a walk, and then it can be
Mhm.
unbelievable. But man, I've never hurt watching people die. Like they make you.
Wow.
They do a good job of investing you in some of the, and that there can only be one, right? Like it's one of those situations. And he wrote this before Hunger Games. So another knock was people thought it was a Hunger Games knockoff. No, this book is one of his oldest stories.
Really?
Yeah. So this was
That's
way
cool.
before. Some
Yeah.
people could say Hunger Games ripped that story off, actually.
Well, there you go. See?
Yeah. I mean, some
Nailed
people,
it.
as in I can say it. No, I'm just joking. I don't know. But
I
Long
definitely
Walk
did
was
check it out.
yeah. So, but I never read it. So Stephen King's kind of just out there on X and stuff, and so I don't want to get into that kind of stuff. So sometimes it can get hard to get back into stuff.
Well, and I mean, with any writer, they can't be awesome forever. I mean, it's just impossible. I'm sorry. And so it's like we were talking about M. Night Shyamalan. He was the peak of cinema for 8 years or something, and then he's just not everything he's done.
Well, yeah, dude,
he fell off the cliff. So
he made me so mad with Glass. Freaking
Yeah.
Unbreakable and Split were so good.
know.
And then what he does to finish that story, I've never probably wanted to punch a director as much as I probably would say, you know what, Shemayan, you're going to, throughout every episode, anytime anyone brings up his movies, like you brought up Lady in the Water, I didn't have to push it. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Other than The Happening Last Airbender,
Yep.
and After Earth. Those
After
are the
Earth.
3 Shyamalan movies that I wish could never exist.
They were awful.
But most of his other stuff, you know,
Yeah.
Village, I like, right?
The
But
Village, I
if I could
adore The
just punch
Village.
him for what he did for
Yeah.
Glass, how he finished that story, you pimp us out with you bring Bruce Willis
I
back in the
know.
first you in split with Bruce Willis, and then he's just got the dumbest story ever in the 3rd movie.
I
It's
know,
just dumb.
dude.
It was so mad.
I was yeah, it was a huge
It
disappointment.
was a very big, and you bring back the son from Unbreakable. Like everything
Yeah.
about Glass seemed like this is going to be the greatest 3rd
Yeah.
movie. My brother and I were so stoked to go see, you know, just
I
we
mean,
didn't
me
see it
too.
together,
I
but we
couldn't
were
wait.
stoked. And then I just walked out like, are you friggin' kidding me? Like
Yep.
I don't even like I just want to punch you in the face, dude.
Yeah. It was bad. It was not good. It's such a huge disappointment. Anyways, it's fine. But yeah, there's a The Village. I love The Village. I think Village is maybe his most underrated film,
Yeah.
and it's so good. The marketing for The Village hurt The Village because it was marketed like The Sixth Sense, like it was going to be this really super scary horror
Yeah.
movie,
And
and
it
it's
was
a
a
slow burn,
slow burn,
and
but
there's no and
man,
the creatures are fake, and it's like there's really no
dude.
and it but I don't know why if I just didn't when I went what that there's the that movie's it's beautiful. It's a beautiful film. Like there's a scene in that where the creatures are coming, everybody's running to their house, and she's running and she
He
puts her hand out. She just puts her hand out.
could.
She's just running. She's blind. She knows he's gonna come. She knows he's gonna show
Yep.
up. She
Yep.
just knows. She can't see. But she knows he is. And at that point, they haven't even sort of like
No, they're
professed
not a
their love for
couple.
each other.
Yeah. When he
She
grabs her
just
hand,
knows he's gonna protect her. And I'm like, that just gets. That was the. I'm like, the
it's the best scene of
music.
that movie. It is the
It
best scene.
is,
That and then
and
the
it's
scene. And if you haven't, if anybody hasn't watched this, I don't want to ruin another scene. But there's another scene that's a twist. Somebody gets stabbed.
yep.
That those 2 scenes make
That
the
scene is
movie.
intense,
They make the movie. They really make the movie. And
and
so
it wasn't scary.
it's a
There's
slow
no.
movie. The twist really
Yep.
isn't much of a twist. It isn't.
Also,
You know,
it was shot by Roger Deakins.
Roger. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
So
he
you're,
DP'd it.
yeah,
So
you know,
that's
this
also
guy's
I didn't even know Deakins did it at the time.
A Roger
I
Geekin
am.
over here. No, I'm just no.
I
He's
got to meet
great.
Roger Deakins once. It was
Oh,
amazing.
nice. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so
cool. So
him
you
and his
got
wife, they're super
nice.
nice. I mean, I met him at like a book signing. It wasn't like we
No,
got to
no,
sit and
yeah,
chat,
no, I understand,
but he was super nice and just I was in greatness and you could feel it. I'm like, this guy's just he's the great. I mean, he may be the greatest, arguably, as you said earlier, arguably the greatest that there's ever been. Knighted by the Queen. He's Sir Roger Deakins.
yeah. And if you're just behind a
He
camera and
was so
you get
nice.
knighted,
What does
that's
that tell you
huge.
about your career?
No,
Yeah,
no, that's huge. I mean, and he's been in some
exactly.
good stuff. I mean, I'm already a fan of him just with The Village by itself because there were shots on
Yeah,
that movie. That movie was made. You had some weird suspenseful music, but a lot of it was just the angles, and it
yeah.
had in the way in which they captured different characters. Like, remember, like in the church scene, it was some weird filming when they're behind all the pews and
Yep,
stuff. And so
yep.
there's just really cool stuff that
It's
he does
cool.
that feels a little
Yeah,
differently than some of his other movies.
it does.
So
It
The
was.
Village was definitely it
Yep.
was a risk.
Sicario,
It was a risk. It
Prisoners.
didn't pay off.
Yeah,
It didn't pay off box office wise, but I always think it's
it
just a.
didn't.
And I'm a big William Hurt guy, so
Me
I thought
too.
he was epic in that. And then one of my favorite movies of all, like one of my sneaky good movies that I used to work at a Blockbuster, and
Hmm.
so I would always recommend this to everybody. Mr. Brooks, that's one of my favorite.
Oh yeah,
That's my favorite William Hurt role. Is
that's
Mr.
great.
Brooks. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
that's a
so
good
good in
one.
Mr. Brooks. And so that's one of my favorite serial killer movies, actually, is
Yep.
Mr. Brooks. It'll be on my Mount Rushmore if I ever do a serial killer. And people were like, why would you pick a Kevin Costner movie? And I'd be like, Mr. Brooks is phenomenal. It's
It's
a
great.
phenomenal movie.
It is.
Dude, you put a serious movie and Dane Cook doesn't completely ruin the movie, you've done okay. You know what I mean? You've done okay. Dane Cook didn't like make the movie, but he didn't ruin the movie either,
He
right? So
didn't
it's
ruin
like,
it
you know,
either.
like he was a little, it was weird. I think if they had picked a different actor to be his character, it would have done a little bit better, probably. And then for some reason, Demi Moore just didn't. There was like this supposed to be like this cool, you know, she's the cop after him, and they just,
Mhm.
I just feel like there was something a little, I don't know, there's something a little off about her.
Yeah,
And I think, I don't know if she was just finally phoning in stuff at that. I don't know. I'm
she
not,
may have
you know,
been.
yeah. So, but Mr. Brooks, Kevin Costner, and William
It's a
Hurt,
good
their
one.
scenes were amazing. So, but
Yep,
all
it's a
right,
good one.
well, before we finish, we just want to give everybody a chance. Where can people find you? So, with
Sure.
Happy Halloween, we know that's April 14th.
14.
And that's going to be probably like Shutter, Tubi, things like
Mhm.
that. And so y'all can be watching that. IMDb, he's David Watson, and you guys can see his reel.
Yep.
Vincent's Vow. That was in a church film festival, so there's a little bit of faith behind all that kind of stuff. And so,
Yep.
you know, you've got that going on. And then So after Happy Halloween, what's your next one that you're excited about? Or where can people see you? Like, do you have a Twitter? Do you post little
Mhm.
videos of filming and stuff like that? Do you have anything that you do on the side?
I don't. I do have a YouTube channel that's just under
Okay.
my name,
David M.
under David
Watson?
Watson. Yeah, it's
Okay.
just under David Watson. It may not
David
be able to
Watson
find
on
it.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if it'll come up or not, there's probably a lot of David Watsons, but
Sure.
I do have I put a lot of the shorts we do out, a lot of the Sado, pretty much every short we do is probably out there at some point to for people to see. And my reel is out there. I made a Jurassic Park fan film called Jurassic Park Prelude. That's what I used to propose to my now wife. Yep.
Wow, I
I
haven't
made
seen
it.
it.
She's a
Jurassic
big
Park
Jurassic
Prelude.
Park.
Okay.
It's on my YouTube channel. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, it's like 12 minutes, 13 minutes or something like that. But we shot that to because she's a big Jurassic Park fan.
Okay.
And so I used it as like they're delivering this package, which was the ring. They're trying to get it to this guy named Dave,
Okay.
and they throw it past the camera. And in the theater, I stand up and catch it, and I have the
Oh
ring in
my
my hand,
gosh, that's
and
awesome,
I
dude.
proposed and did the whole thing. So I think the proposal, the end of it, I went in and like synced up
Edited
and
in,
put
you
the
put it in, synced it
yeah,
in.
yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
The
I'm looking
if
forward to
you'll
that.
notice in the film that the credits and stuff are over. I think it says Elva, I have a question or something like that, but it's over white. It's on a white background with black lettering, and that was because I knew it would light up the theater so
Sure.
she could see me.
Yeah.
So,
That's
and I could see
awesome.
her and all that stuff. So, because I edited it and shot it, of course. And my friend
Yeah.
Brittany Greer, she helped me. I had this idea, a nugget,
Yeah.
and we talked about it, and she went off like in like 2 days later she had this like 10 or 11 page script written, dialogue, I mean everything, and we talked about it, gave her some notes and made a few tweaks here and there, and then we shot it over 2 days, and they're in Springfield, and you'll recognize some of the people in it. Emma's in it.
Sure.
She came down from St. Louis to be in it, which was super sweet of her because it was a big. I really wanted her to be in it, and
That's awesome.
and so Mickey's in it. He's in a bunch of the stuff we do, Mickey Stone, and anyways, it's means a lot to me. And there's a whole behind the scenes like making of thing that we
Okay.
did because I tried to document as much as I could. My buddy Kong Tao, he's an audio guy. You should have him on.
Okay.
He's a really good audio guy. He just did the audio for that Hallmark whatever movie they just did in Civil War City. He was the production sound guy for it. But
Oh,
anyways,
really?
yeah, so he's got a ton of experience, and he directs and he shoots some too. Anyways, he came and did a bunch of BTS for me,
Okay.
and when we were making it, so there's a fun little behind the scenes video there too to watch. But yeah, you can find most of the stuff I do. Finding Joy is the next one that's kind of should hear in the next, I assume the next month or so.
Okay.
I think we'll hit streaming. It's going to be on Blu-ray and DVD too, because I had to make the Blu-ray files for it, and I had to make the DVD files for it, which was a whole thing I didn't know how to learn to do. But because you have to create the menus and all that stuff, it's nuts. And so it's coming out. Finding Joy, you can find it on IMDb. It's on my IMDb too. But Valerie Bates was the writer director of it, and she's the star. She did a fantastic job, and it has to do. It's just kind of it's more of a drama. It has some
Okay.
suspense. It has to do with sleep paralysis, and
Oh,
there's some
really?
kind of some creepy stuff in it that has to do with some. She experienced some sleep paralysis over a couple of year period, I think,
Oh, wow.
and so it kind of inspired her to write this story. But it's
Okay.
really good. I think it's one I'm proud of. I mean, I'm proud of all of them that I do,
Sure.
because just if for nothing else, the effort that goes into it
Oh,
from
yeah, no, it
everybody,
sounds like all the
you
work
can't
you
help.
do.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't help but be proud of what everybody puts into it. So we shot most of that up in Kansas City. But anyways, it's probably the next one that's coming out. And then Aging
Okay.
Predators is another one that's going to be. It's almost done. I'm actually doing the Foley for it right now, and for my buddy Thomas, and he's doing visual effects.
Okay.
It's getting close as well. But anyways, yeah. So
No, man, I really appreciate it. It's been fun. Thanks for
yeah,
chatting.
it's
I
been a
really
pleasure.
enjoyed just getting to talk about,
Thank you.
the cinematography side, but also just finally, just getting to talk about movies and just,
Yeah, it's fun.
and that's the point is like, I just want, so for all those viewing, so the goal for every episode is just to, just have fun talking about movies. If you agree or disagree, put it in the comments. Subscribe if you like more of this and you want more of this. I've got a couple more episodes and then I'm going to be reaching out to people. I truly am going to reach out to Brendan Fair from Killing Me Again and see if he'd be like, hey, I'm just a no-name podcaster. I do this all myself. I've never done this before. I would love to talk about this cool little movie I saw and just get your, his take on something like that. And so, but I just love that kind of stuff. And so like and subscribe if you like this. And so we'll probably have you on again. I was thinking about doing something
Sure.
down the road with Jeff and you and maybe Ryan or some other guys where we talk about AI. I think that would be a fun perspective from different hats, because I know that's a
Yep.
big topic, but I kind of want to wait a little while because you don't want to get too controversy. I mean, I just want to talk about
Sometimes you
having
do.
fun. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I do. Trust me. I actually have more of a abrasive personality, I guess, but I just love having conversations. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what brings us all together. When we have a mutual love for something, there can be a lot more,
Sure.
unity and things like that. So thank you so much, David, for being on
Thank you.
here. And
It's a
I hope
pleasure.
I hope you have a very great week, and we'll be talking to you soon. All right.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks.